Choose the odd man out on that one.
What's that?
Jack's beat me up.
Really?
Jack's made the world team.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is now 5:30, and I welcome you all to this regularly scheduled meeting of the East Helena School Board of Trustees. And the first item on the agenda is our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Appreciate the great attendance this evening. Appreciate you taking time out for us. So hopefully this will be a pretty productive meeting. One of the concerns we do have is it is a very aggressive agenda. So we'll probably tighten up some comment times and things of that nature, but we'll give everybody an opportunity to speak if they wish to do so. But with that in mind, we've got for the board this evening tonight's agenda. Are there any questions or comments from the board on said agenda? And I would like to make a comment that when we get to the point of item number three, under new business, that will be tabled. The result of that was because MTSBA has not released the information necessary for us to vote. So we'll delay that action until August. And I have been told that we will be given plenty enough time when they send that off to us in order for us to have a next meeting. So we shouldn't have to have a special meeting in order to address that. Other than that, are there any other questions, comments on this evening's agenda? Okay, seeing none, then we'll hear the public. This is the opportunity for the public to address the board on non-agenda items. On the back of this evening's agenda are guidelines for addressing the board on such discussion points. So if any member of the audience would like to address the board on a non-agenda item, this is their opportunity to do so. Okay. Seeing none, we'll now go on to reports. And the first in reports is our athletic director, Sean.
So I shared with you guys last year's per activity expenditure sheet. And that's here if there's any questions.
Are there any high points that you'd like to voice out of that, Sean, or?
Well, just the fact that with the Booster Club as well, our activities were over $130,000 that we spent out. You know, so.
Student fund side, is that the fundraiser stuff that the students do, or is that a separate?
I don't know, I do not have, that's just out of the activity side of mine, not what the
So it's not their individual
individual
fundraising
program
accounts.
raised, no.
Okay.
Because I figured that was, you know, each one's different and they all do their own thing, and that's their money to spend on their kids, so.
And then coaches' pay is not included in that 130,000, but the number of stipends per activity are listed in that far right
The list,
column.
number of students per activity we had last year,
And then number of coaches, right?
number of stipends, not
Stipends,
necessarily
right?
coaches, but yeah.
Because they're volunteer coaches for one activities. I asked Sean to track this over the course of the year just to start to get a perspective with the program starting to build out and become full programs. I think it's pretty important that we get a handle on what we're spending a year on athletics. I was surprised the number wasn't quite a bit higher. And I was under the impression, for some reason, that we were spending somewhere around $70,000 to $80,000 a year on hotel rooms, and it was actually closer to $43,000, which is still a lot of money on hotel rooms. But with our travel schedules, in the Class A, that's just kind of a cost of doing business. And our kids are going a lot of miles, and oftentimes we've got to overnight, either when we get there or on the way there sometimes, so that's part of the cost of the programs.
And then one of the other things, like, say you see out of the student fund side, football and volleyball are kind of high, and that's because there's a lot of officials. They have 3 programs each, so we're paying a lot of money for officials every week for officials. So a lot of that money's, I'd say probably 5,000 for football and at least 3 to 4 for volleyball in officials.
And the money that goes into the student activity fund mostly comes from gate receipts
And
and
activity
activity
fees.
passes.
Yeah.
So that's how we're paying our refs.
Any other questions for Sean? This one thing I'd like to say is that I appreciate this report. This is something that I find very helpful. I doubt, but in the event that that's not the case, are other districts doing reports such as this?
I don't know. That's a good question. I can find out.
One of the reasons and the rationale behind that question is I was looking to see how we compare as far as mostly, not necessarily the cost-wise, but mostly student participation in these sports. How are we looking as far as similar size schools?
I can tell you in September, participation numbers for fall sports.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be good information.
I do know that when it comes to a lot of our sports, we're higher than most schools.
Yeah. And I'm not suggesting that you have to poll each and every school, the Class A school district or whatever, but just a general overview of, one of the
Eastern
things.
Aid, we do that automatically on our
Okay.
August 20th meeting,
Okay,
because we want to know how everybody compares with each sport for the
Perfect.
season.
excellent, thank you.
So,
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to item number 2, which is trustee and committee reports of the K-12 board.
I don't believe we had any board committee meetings.
No, don't believe we did either. One thing is in the interim, since our last time we met, I just have a quick report. I attended a COSBA Board of Directors meeting, and that was over June 24th through the 26th in St. Louis. And we welcomed a new executive director, which we hired. Our existing one, or former one, retired, deservedly so. He has done, Tom Bernard has done an excellent job running through what COSBA's gone since its infancy, and he's done a great job leading our organization. But now we've turned over the reins of our previous, the previous Ohio executive director, Ohio School Board Executive Director, Kathy McFarland. She is got a growth mentality, very excited, very energetic individual, and I think she'll be a good asset to lead the organization in the future. Lance Melton, our Executive Director of Montana School Boards Association, as of July 1st, became a member of the Board of Directors, just based on the way the systems are scheduled. And so he's starting his first of a 3-year term on the Board of Directors. And I am also on the Board of Directors, and I'm in my second of my 3rd year on it. So it's kind of neat that Montana will have 2 members of the Board of Directors in a group of 18 nationwide. So it's hopefully there'll be higher level of influence coming out of Montana, and for that matter, Wyoming. So some of the smaller states are actually going to say on some of the national direction. So I'm looking forward to that. Any questions on the COSBA update? Okay, seeing none, then we'll go to strategic planning. This is the opportunity for the board and the public to scan the district's future needs and discuss our strategic plan. And Dan, I'll let you kick that off.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of new updates. I think if you've been following it, you might be aware that it sounds like the city's raise grant application is back on track. They still haven't got approved, but they're anticipating approval by the end of the year. And that's, again, that's for the Valley Drive project, so that was good news because they were concerned that that might be getting cut. And the only other thing that I would bring up is I did get an opportunity to comment on some initial drawings for the Prickly Pear Estates subdivision, which is being built across Highway 12 on the east side of Highway 518, behind where the Old Man Love Cabin used to sit back there. And I would encourage you guys, if you get an opportunity to comment or be a part of any discussions about that subdivision, to encourage the developer to consider land in that subdivision for a future school site to be built. They're planning 4,500 to 5,500 homes on almost 900 acres out there. And in my mind, it would be an ideal location to build an elementary school. But right now, they're not under any obligation to sign over any property to the school district. They're not under any obligation to sell any property to the school district. And it probably won't happen during the time that I'm working for the school district, but somewhere down the road, East Helena is gonna wanna put an elementary school over there, just to cut down on traffic across Highway 12 and across railroad tracks. If we don't build a school over there, I think the parents who eventually buy houses over there are gonna want us to bus their kids over here to these schools. And we're not obligated to, because they're within the 3-mile limit, and it'll just create a lot of, I think, hardship and heartache in the community if that's not part of that plan. So I'm leaning into that pretty hard, waiting to see when it comes up on the city council agenda too, so that we can knock it in. There'll be several phases of that subdivision. This is just the first phase. But as the plats are being released, I think it's pretty important that we're kind of letting our voices be heard, that this is an important consideration. So that's all I've got.
Okay. And just as a follow-up, kind of with, we were talking about the City of East Helena Raise Grant. Dan and I attended the City of East Helena city meeting, what was it, about 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And one of the big discussions, or the rationale reason why we were there, was because Lewis Clark County Library is talking about building a brand new branch in the East Helena area. And one of the places that they were proposing was just west of the swimming pools, or west of the tennis courts that are west of the swimming pools.
Actually, I think it's gonna be on the tennis. I think
Oh, and they're
tear
gonna remove
that
the tennis courts,
court
okay,
out.
so they're gonna remove the tennis courts, and so right, just immediately adjacent to the swimming pools. I took it upon myself to support the plan, thought it was a great idea. I did not do it on behalf of the board, I did it just on behalf of myself, but I did say that there's probably a large majority of the board members that would also be in support of this, just from the fact that it will provide greater access for our students to be able to access the overall library system that we have in the county, and they're very excited about doing that. East Helena appears to be on board with it, and there seems to be a lot of support, and this is something that is going to be essentially paid for out of county budget.
Funds, yeah.
So that it'll be a direct benefit to the community of East Helena without the direct cost of it. So that's a win-win when it comes to that. So, any other thoughts, ideas, thinking of our strategic plan or scanning for our future needs?
Just kind
Yeah.
of follow up from last meeting when we talked about Helena Christian moving over across on Canterbury. Through conversation with people that I've had in the community, they were questioning whether or not we are responsible, because it was talked about that lays on us when they come over. Does it still lay on us, or does it lay on the district that they belong to?
What
Because
happens
they're-
is the district in which the school is located is responsible to provide a proportional share of Title I and special ed. And if a student at Helena Christian lives in Broadwater County or Helena Public Schools District Number 1, then we still provide the services to the child, but we bill them for the proportional share of those services to that child, so that'll be more fun in the business office, trying to figure that out. We've never had to do that before, because we've never had a private school in East Helena, in the school district, so, that'll be a change. Right now, Helena does it, because they're 20 feet to the other side of the road. And if an East Helena student receives services from the Helena personnel, then they would send us a bill for that, so.
So does that go in line with athletics and classes as well?
No,
Like, they
so-
enroll in a class?
So say, for instance, a private school or homeschool student wants to participate in, say, football. They have to be a district resident. And this is super confusing to people, because they think the school's in East Helena, so the kids that go to the school can come to East Helena High School and participate in our sports. If they're an East Helena resident that's going to Helena Christian, then yes, they can. If they're a Helena resident that's going to Helena Christian, they gotta go to Helena High or Capital High.
I'm not saying like well-being or any extra classes they may want to take.
Yeah, unless they apply for non-resident status and get approved, yeah. So, yeah, it's fun to navigate. And very confusing. If parents are confused about it, they shouldn't feel ashamed because the superintendent is confused
Yeah,
about it.
that was a lot of
Yeah,
confusion
yeah.
there. Thank you.
Good questions.
Yeah.
Any additional comments, questions on the district's strategic plan? Okay, as always, we will revisit this next month. Next item on our agenda is notifications of retirements and resignations.
And those are in your packet. I believe we had 2.
Yep.
And I don't have the whole packet. I forgot to bring it over with.
Betty
Thank you.
McLean,
Yeah.
Jack Queen.
And Jackie Meeker. And those have been accepted on behalf of the board. It's kind of tough for us with special ed staff right now. Patty has decided to take a different position in the Helena Public Schools. And Gus had a special ed teacher hired to take her place, and she hadn't even got a chance to look at her contract yet, and her husband worked for FEMA and got laid off today, and they're moving back home out of state. I don't know where they're from, so she's now just turning down her job offer, so. So Gus is back to the drawing board looking for a special ed teacher at RAD.
Any questions for Dan on our retirements and resignations? Seeing none, we'll go on to consent agenda.
He's an official. They confirmed in this one. But on the ones we were given, it was not.
I think she probably reprinted it.
That is the one I brought over.
What's that?
Just go ahead and pull them off and then we'll
Okay.
talk about it.
Can I pull the June 9th minutes, please?
Sure. Before the board this evening, we have consent action items, which include the board minutes of our June 9th, June 30th meeting, pay warrants, current and at last month or at least up until the last day of June, personnel actions, surrounding district enrollment approvals, and recommendation for employment of staff. Typically, there is no debate on consent action items. However, if any member of the board wishes to do so, they can pull an item off and that discussed separately. And it appears that we want to pull the minutes of the June 9th meeting, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, pull the minutes of our June 9th meeting off of the consent agenda. Are there any other items that the board would like to pull and discuss separately? If not, then I would entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda items as presented, except with the exclusion of the June 9th.
So moved.
Motion and a second from Mark. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Okay,
Can I stop you for just a minute?
yes, you can.
So on your personnel actions, Jillian Hayter was hired as our advanced opportunity facilitator, and she's here with us tonight. Jill, I asked her to come to the meeting and be introduced to the board. So this is a position that was created by the legislature, or authorized by the legislature in the session this spring. And we opted to move forward with trying to fill that position, I believe, in April or May. And we interviewed a group of 5 outstanding candidates, had a really hard time making a choice. Jill is new to the community, married to a kid who grew up in Helena, and is just super excited to be taking this role. and actually lives in Highland Meadows, so not very far away from the high school where our office is gonna be, so welcome, Jill.
Thank you, I'm excited to be here, I'm excited for the opportunity.
Exciting, and it'll be a great position for us to have you in, so.
Yeah, it'll be great, I'm super excited and thankful to be here, so.
Cool. Alright,
Okay, so we'll now move on to the discussion of our June 9th meeting minutes. And Casey,
I just had a clerical under the, hiring of the wrestling coach. It just had that I was abstained on there, but then down below, it's also said that the board abstained. It said trustee board
oh,
abstained, so it was just
so it was a typo,
a typo and then it was duplicated.
and it's fixed on
It's
here.
fixed on here, yeah.
So we'll just, can I just make sure I take this with me, and we'll double check that in the final version. I don't know how that happened, unless it fixed itself on the printer. Could be.
are there any, okay, are there any other changes, revisions, comments, questions on our June 9th meeting minutes? Seeing none, then I would entertain a motion to accept the June 9th meeting minutes with the suggested change.
I will make that motion.
Yeah, the motion from Mark, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Carl. Questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Okay, we'll now move on to unfinished business, and the first item under unfinished business is our TD grant progress update.
All right, and I included some documents in the supporting documents that were shared with us from Staley, and Clint Smith is here just to talk with us about the progress. The grant is gonna be submitted in about 2 weeks, would you say?
That's correct.
Okay, and did you wanna talk a little bit about where you guys are at with it?
Yes, so before you tonight, board chair, board members, we do have the updated quantities and prices for the opinions of probable cost with several different options there. Updated, the plan set is at a 50% plan set for you for review, and I'll be here for comments for any of those that you may have that I can bring forward so we can get these presented and put into the packet.
Did any members of the board, as they looked at this, have any questions, comments on the proposal or?
I have a couple of board members.
Please.
So, under the opinion of costs, item number 4, can you explain kind of what the purpose of contractor quality control is?
That line item is gonna be for all the testing for compaction and concrete, any asphalt, or any of those testing will be required through Public Works for the contractor to pay for those.
So they're gonna hire their own engineer for that, or they're doing the testing on their own material and work?
It'd be third party.
Third party, okay.
In this area, it'd be Pioneer typically would be out here to do the testing for the contractor.
I have a bunch of comments in general on these plans. I know that they're for a grant, but I do have a couple of ones that might be worth bringing forward. So when we, under Charlie 2, so we're looking at the East Main Street crosswalk detail. Typically for school stuff, we use the S11 signs, not the W11-2s. So that might be something to update prior to, you know, submitting for the grant, is the school, the Pentagon style with the fluorescent yellow greens rather than the fluorescent yellows for the signage. Then it's same detail on the left side, would talk about mat in place style curb. Looking at the details further along, that's a pin down curb from MDT. That's in a quote unquote dirt area outside of plant mix. That mat in place is for use on plant mix only typically. Because otherwise the water will kind of run underneath of it after you cast it a lot of times, so it doesn't look real good. changing the grading patterns here is just like future down the road, if, the grant gets, approved, you'll probably have some, you know, if you're changing those drainage patterns, expect a hydraulic requirement from MVT, that kind of stuff. And then for the most part, they require, their specs in there right away or within their, in routes that they control. So not public works specs, but MVT specs. And just to be clear, I do work for MVT, so this is, you'll probably get, so there's, just so the board knows as well as everybody else that this is kind of you doing dual duty somewhat, so, not trying to get any kind of a conflict of interest here, but just a heads up, so that way it's not, it's well known.
No, definitely appreciate those comments on there. And we were in contact, just not advanced enough to get that information.
Yeah,
out to you.
no, that's fine, that's why I'm trying to help you out, so if when it gets there, the reviews will be a lot faster. So,
I appreciate that very much.
Tyrell,
Yes.
do you have any, involvement in the selection process for these grants, or are you?
no, I don't think so, not at this time, so.
If indeed the case that does occur, then we'll have to do one of two things on it. We'll either have to have you remove yourself from consideration of that item at the MVT level, or we'll have to figure out something in order to try to prevent a conflict of interest between selection.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, I'm typically not on the grant applications now. If they ask me to score, that's something that I could disclose at that time.
Yep.
We'll go from there, so.
Yeah, last thing I'd want is somebody to contest it because you're on board. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah,
The main project match increased by about 20,000 from the first time. Is there I'm sure there's a reason why. There's like 16 items on the list versus 14 on the main project. It went from 70 to 99,000. Is there a reason why?
So we did get some updated quantities as well as pricing. And with these, you want to be on the higher side of that for when you do put in for the TA grant.
So if it came out less than that, we wouldn't pay, we'd only pay what it came out to be.
Correct, it'd just be that proportional share.
Typically, the way these work is there's a upfront cost, but then there's an agreement that dictates how much percentage. There's a check written at that time, typically, or the agreements, the funding agreement's in place. And as the project gets designed, because it's really hard to account for everything, usually those funding agreements are amended later, depending as you get closer and closer to bidding, and then at bid, if it's more or less. That's what happened with the recent one between EVMS and Prickly Pear, is that when it went to bid, it was higher than the engineer's estimate. It was recommended for award, but it was, what, about another 15?
I wanna say 15,000.
15,000 in a match.
Some of
which-
that's just dealing with inflation too, as the clock keeps ticking on, we're trying to stay out ahead of that. But you're exactly right, Terrell. What they're trying to do is give us, I guess, a worst case scenario. And then like Terrell said, up front, we'll have a small portion of that to pay to get things rolling at the start, and then most of it becomes due at the very end of the project when it's done and contractors are all getting paid. And so we just need to be prepared for that potential maximum dollar amount and the potential, like Terrell was saying, if there's some kind of issue with bidding, like with the other TA grant, we actually cut a big portion of it out that was originally approved because it was getting too cost prohibitive. So that sidewalk along Lewis Street was also supposed to include sidewalk in front of the cemetery along Valley Drive. And that, by the time we got to bid on that, it was like, there's no way we can afford all that, so we just eliminated that part. So sometimes you have to make adjustments after the fact.
A lot of these bid prices, for that project, that TA project, so most recent best information available. And increase some unit prices quite a bit.
Thank you.
okay.
Good question.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, perfect. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2 under unfinished business, which is a consideration of a non-resident application for a newly hired employee.
This is a paraprofessional newly hired to work at Radley School. she has a child that she would like to bring to school here who is an 8th grader, just one 8th grade student, and as that was one of our considerations in our procedure on non-residents was for employees who get hired over the summer, that's why we bring this one forward.
Out of curiosity, does the individual, and you may or may not know this, but the individual have any or children that are below the age of attendance?
I don't know the answer to that. You mean like less than 5 years old?
Yeah. The reason I'm saying,
Yeah.
I haven't asked that in the past, but that's also about consideration, is that if one of those, if it's a sibling, then they're also granted that honor. And so if we are looking to try to watch that kindergarten, first grade,
Right.
that we need to probably be tracking all of it. Now, I don't think we can make that a contingency on.
Right, I don't even know if we're allowed to ask.
You probably can't, unless you're just casual conversation.
By the way, what do you do for daycare?
Just out of curiosity.
No, I don't know the answer.
Okay. So, before the board, we have this application, and I would entertain a motion to accept said application.
I make a motion to accept the application.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Stacy. Questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? Saying none. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no.
No.
Motion passes 1-0. Tyro. Okay, moving on to item number 3. This is our consideration of changes to the boys and girls wrestling teams and staff. One of the board members came to me and requested that due to the fact of the number of people that we've heard comments on this subject for the last couple months, had asked that this be placed on an agenda. And so to honor that request, that's why we're having it here tonight. One question I do ask you, can I get a show of hands of those individuals that are interested in testifying on this item this evening? Okay, perfect. Okay, Dan, I'll let you.
Yeah, so this is the issue that was discussed at the June board meeting, and that's why it's under unfinished business. And like Scott said, the trustee did request that this be put back on the agenda for consideration. What we're talking about here tonight is, first of all, it's an issue that's gonna be resolved either now or a year from now anyway. And that was our original intent was to separate the girls and boys programs next summer going into the 26-27 school year. Since that has happened, there's been some discussion about splitting the programs now. And so this is, I just want to be clear, it's a discussion about not if it's going to happen, but when it's going to happen. And also, it's not a discussion about who the coaches are going to be. We've already hired Tim Baird as a head wrestling coach. If the programs are going to be split, it's not clear whether Tim's going to be the boys or the girls wrestling coach at this point in time. Those decisions will be made probably between the athletic director and the coach himself. And so we're not making a staffing decision, we're talking about a program decision here tonight. And whether or not we ought to split the programs now or next year. Last month, one of the trustees asked about costs. And the cost differential between making the change now and next year is pretty minimal. Up until this year, we had 3 stipends in the stipend schedule for wrestling for a head coach and 2 assistants, and then there were multiple volunteer coaches with wrestling, quite a few. Our intent was to add at least another assistant coach stipend, so we'd have a total of 4 stipends. The differential between those assistant coach stipends and a head coach stipend is probably around $1,000. Is that what you'd say, Sean? 1,200 maybe?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
So if we were to make the change and say, we're gonna split the programs now, it's, you're talking about $1,200, so it's not like it's a huge burden on the district that way. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about it.
Before we move on, there's a point of clarification that I think needs to be made at this point, and I'll have to direct it to you, Sean, somewhat. But the assumption was being made that it would be required that, not this year, but the following year, that they would be, that MHSA is gonna require that there be 2 separate head coaches. Was that your understanding?
In the next couple of years, yes.
It's actually not till
28.
28 or 28, 29.
Okay, because I did contact a member of the board, but Tim, if you have some clarification, go ahead.
Yeah, it's actually been postponed. This is from May, sorry. Yeah, May 20. I've got a copy of this for all of you. Would you like one?
That'd be fine, you can go ahead and pass that out. The reason why I bring that to your, or ask the question, is I contacted our member, the MTSBA's director on the MHSA, and she pretty much said the same thing, that there's probably a chance that it's not even a guarantee that it would occur, that there's a potential that, you know, depending on some legal discussions that they had with their attorney, whether or not it's even gonna be required in order to meet the requirements of the Ridgeway decision. So if we did make this change, it would be solely because the district perhaps would wanted to do that, as opposed to any type of actual requirement by MHSA.
And it's been postponed to the 28-29 year, and it's practice only. It's written in their notes there.
Okay.
Which we already have, separated boys and girls practices. Just so you know, we're ahead of the game there.
Okay. Okay.
I could clarify too, my recommendation in your packet was to keep the programs combined for this next year, and then work towards a plan to be prepared to split the programs in 26, 27 next year. And that recommendation is based pretty much entirely on the fact that I had a discussion with Tim, and he expressed interest in coaching the combined program for one more year. And I wanted to honor that, given his, everything that he's given to the district as a head wrestling coach so far. It's not based on any MHSA recommendation or anything else like that.
Okay. So at this point in time, before we take public comment, I would entertain a motion to, the way it reads now is that the motion would have to be that we do separate the 2 programs. So at this point in time, do I have a motion from the board to separate the 2 programs into a boys team and a girls wrestling team?
I'll make a motion to separate, yes.
Okay, and we have a motion, do we have a second?
We'll second that.
Okay, and we have a second. Okay, now time for comment. Okay, sorry. So, board member, I guess, those individuals from the public that would like to address the board on this, please raise your hand. Yep. Please, I'll take the first one up, one closest to me. If you could tell us who you are, and
hold on, let me find my stuff here.
and we will be limiting comment to 3 minutes. And I've got Tyrell timing us, and he'll give you a little heads up when there's 30 seconds left to go.
All right, my name is Jeremy Hernandez. Good evening, members of the school board, coaches, faculty, and fellow students. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak. We are here today to advocate for a necessary and timely change to split our boys and girls wrestling teams into 2 distinct programs, each with their own head coach. This is not just about fairness, it's about effectiveness and giving both boys and girls the support they need to grow as athletes. Most programs across the state consider 25 athletes enough for a standalone team. Girls wrestling is one of the fastest growing sports nationally. By investing now, we're not only supporting today's athletes, but also preparing for continued growth. One coach managing 48 wrestlers across different gender styles, weight classes, and needs is simply not sustainable or fair. Splitting the program ensures each team gets the focused coaching, leadership, and logistical support it deserves. Girls and boys wrestle differently, not only physically, we talk about promoting female leadership in sports, and this is how we do it. A separate girls team creates leadership roles, captains, team managers, and head coach who could be a role model. One head coach split between two groups means compromises. Someone's development will always take a back seat. Separate teams give both boys and the girls equal visibility, voice, and value within our school's athletic programs. A single coach cannot, and this is just the head coach spot, a single coach cannot effectively manage 48 athletes during practices, weight certifications, injuries and rehab, match preparation, or emotional support and mentoring. This isn't just about winning, it's about safety, attention, and supporting student athletes as human beings. More and more schools in our state and across the country have adopted separate wrestling programs for the girls and the boys because it works. It builds a community and retention in girls wrestling. It increases competitive success by focusing on the athlete-specific needs. This is not about dividing our community, and that's what I feel like everybody feels like, and that's not what it should come off as. It's about strengthening it. We are proud to see girls wrestling grow. I got 2 boys and a girl that wrestle. So
30 seconds.
we are proud to see girls wrestling grow, but pride without action is just talk. If we truly value our boys and girls wrestling programs, then we must give them equal leadership, equal attention, and equal respect. The best way to do that is by giving each program its own head coach. Thank you for your time and supporting the future where all athletes get the coaching and recognition they deserve.
Thank you, appreciate your comment. Next individual, like to address the board.
You know, everything he said, there's a lot of truth to it. But a lot of truth to it comes to this as well. You need to hire the correct person at the right time. My proposal that I put forward to the district was not only that they got a year to look at the existing staff, but the new staff hired, see how they gelled with the kids, how the kids gelled with them. We are growing, and it's a great thing. I mean, I could go off on a lot of things, but that's the main thing. You know, it's not one kid or one family. It's 50 to 60 kids who need to be taken care of correctly. And hiring the right person. When you get a whole year to do a job interview, to make sure they're the right person, pretty smart idea in my book. Now, you keep the points, like I'm at a lot of different things, because I've had a lot of people come up to me in the last month. And a lot of it is, their kids don't like me as their coach, and that's fine. I have a staff for a reason. They're the ones that when I'm busy with the situation, they handle it, just like you would in a business. Between different tournaments, different injuries, how the kids are reacting. You know, you have that right now. You split it, you're starting at square one. And I took over this program from a split, and it was hard to come back from. Coming in with the plan of administrators getting to look for a year, getting to look at the staff we have already, seeing if those are the best fits, instead of just being like, well, guess what? We're back to school in August. By November, we have to have a head wrestling coach for the boys or girls. We need to have a staff for them. So it doesn't come just down to $1,200. You've got different buses, you've got different hotels in different areas, you've got different logistics. So right now, we're all one team, we're in the same spot, same coaching staff. That's what's best for business, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other individuals Please.
Newly Potter. I do have a little bit of skin in the game with my daughter going into 8th grade. She's a wrestler. I do believe that girls and boys wrestling is separate, but not. When it comes down to a head coach, I think you can have a head coach and you can have multiple assistant coaches, however big the program gets. I mean, to me, that keeps the values the same as coaching goes. Right now, yes, we grew great. I sponsored the team every year. Last year I had 1 poster. This year I got 2 posters because one had all girls on it, which was awesome. So I don't think splitting them up is, because they're also friends and family. I think keeping them together forever, I think, would work out, but at least for this year, like Tim said. But I'm only here for this particular reason, and that was to say at least we should keep it for this next year the way it is. See where we're at, and that's really all I got.
Thank you, appreciate your comment.
Scott, can I ask, can you state your name again?
Newly.
Newly Potter.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep,
Is it N-E-W-L-Y?
that's it.
There you go.
First time, you got it.
Thank you.
Additional comments from the public? Yeah.
Jennifer Erdl, for the record. I have a son who wrestles, he's a senior, so beyond this year, I don't really have a skin in the game, as people say. And I understand everything people say, and I agree with it. My only thoughts are, what's also been expressed is that anytime you make a big change, you shouldn't make it very quickly. If you want it to be a success, you need time to think about things, like Tim said, with the right coaching staff. You also have facility use and how to make that work when you have one room and now you're splitting it into multiple practices. So I'm in support of splitting it at some point, but I think you just need to take the time to put a good plan into place so that it's a successful transition to splitting to having 2 teams.
Okay. Any additional comments? Questions from the board? Yeah, Mark?
I don't understand the problem. Of course, I've never been involved in a wrestling organization outside of a branding situation, and they were all calling for their mother. So, but I don't understand why we need to have a split up. It's, the letters I got, it was like, I won't have the opportunities that I'd have with 2 head coaches, and I'm thinking, so what's your outcome here? You're gonna be the state champion, or you're gonna be the I mean, what are you missing out on? We have a wrestling program, we have wrestling coaches, and you can do the best you can do with what you got, and that's kind of the way life is. You don't need an individual coach. If you do need an individual coach, you ought to buy one and pay him handsomely, but I don't think it's the taxpayer's responsibility to make sure that you have every opportunity to go as far as possible with the right coaches. I've been confused since the last meeting. Of course, it was at that other building and the fan's going, and I can't really tell what is going on about it. And nobody's calling for their mom. So I would, I appreciate everything that's being said, and I appreciate that we have girl wrestlers, and the heifers are the strongest, let me tell you that right up front. But I don't see why we have some kind of split here. I've been around here for quite a while, and this is like one of the biggest splits that I've ever sat in the school district, and it's like, what? What's the end game? That isn't a question, that was more of a rant, I think we'd call that.
And you're probably best not to admit that you didn't hear what was going on. Any other questions or comments from the board?
I'd just like to point out that the girls' number have been high for 1 year. why don't we wait and see if that's consistent? So you split the program now, what if your girls' numbers go down next year? What if they don't stay consistent? Now we've made the split, hired extra coaching staff for a girls' program, like, let's see where it goes for a year. The other question I have is, you talked about a team being 25 or whatever to where you split. Are we prepared to split tennis, cross-country, swimming, golf, track, speech and debate? Those are all conjoined right now. Just a question on the table.
I didn't say that's when people split the teams, I just said that's when they consider it a large team.
Okay, so consider a large team.
Are they considering splitting the other sports, MHSA? They're not, they're considering splitting the wrestling.
But they're really not.
So once those come up, then I guess that would be a topic for, another board meeting, but currently it's where the wrestling team sits right now.
And nepotism, I don't know when that comes into effect, but.
So I'm gonna, I have some questions. My main frustration last week and the frustration is like, I just didn't know how this decision arrived at. I'm now less clear than I was before, so. Are we hiring more staff? Is it gonna have to be split? We don't know. Or is the splitting still on the table? Are we gonna have to revisit this? I guess I need more and that's not accusative at all, but like, I guess I'd like to hear from you, what's your perception of what is going to happen legally and what is gonna happen as a policy matter and how you came about this decision?
Well,
And that's
first of
not to put
all-
you on the spot, but like,
That's all right.
yeah.
The conversation I had with Tim, he said there's not enough room on the mats for both programs, right? He
At the
said-
same time.
At the same time. So I said, well, we need to start looking, deciding to split this program. Because we wanna make sure they each have their time. It's not about, if we split them, one's gonna go early, one's gonna go late, just like our basketball programs do. You talk about why aren't we splitting golf, MHSA does not want girls wrestling boys. That's the biggest thing I would say the push is gonna be. And the pushback is these Class C schools might have only one girl. So what are they supposed to do? Shadow wrestle? So there's, really.
Yeah, so is that literally, so this is some of the discussion that's going on. This is super helpful, this is exactly
The
what I
other
want.
thing is, when, back in the day, when they put the girls and boys basketball at the same time, you had coaches doing both, but they ran separate practices. Because boys and girls are not supposed to go together in these competitive type sports. They're not supposed to scrimmage together and practice together. So that's where the push is from the MHSA on splitting the boys and girls, especially during practice time. And that's what it is. Golf, we have 10 kids that can go on a varsity meet, 5 boys, 5 girls, that's it. You're never gonna have more boys or girls going to a golf meet for our varsity program. So that's why we would not need a boys and girls coach. We have an assistant that takes the JV, because our golf team is gone Monday through Friday, it seems. If you wanna see a team that misses a lot of school, see our golf team. They are gone, and our head golf coach is like, I have another job, I can't be gone 5 days of the week. 2 years ago, they went to Sydney 2 weeks in a row for state and divisional, so they're gone Wednesday through Saturday, both, So it's, there's just different aspects to different things. The wrestling, biggest thing is, they don't want the boys and girls wrestling together.
So I'm just gonna follow up, so what you're saying is, it's not necessarily, because the question's about track, tennis stuff, what you're saying is like, in sports, your experience is that in sports where there's physicality, there's gender separation.
They want
Is
gender
that- I mean, is
separate,
that-
yes.
And now, what's your sense of whether this will be required, if it will be required, and when it might be required?
I say it's gonna happen sooner or later. The biggest issue, you see Helena and Capital split, and they have their boys and girls, they have less girls wrestling than we do, in my understanding, right?
They do.
They do, and, so it's a school decision of what you think's best for your school. Do I think it needs to be split this year? It's your guys' decision, I'm good either way, we can make it work either way. It's not there's great points on why we should, great points why we should.
So then,
oh,
sorry, I don't know.
No, I was just gonna say, but it was brought up by you initially,
The
correct?
conversations I had with Tim, yes.
Right, but,
And why we needed to, because of, again, map time, we wanted to separate, he wanted to make sure there was enough space for the boys and girls.
so if it was brought up to begin with, then your thought process is that we were gonna do it sooner than later.
within this year or next, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, again, we came with, MHSA is gonna force it in within the next 2
Maybe,
years.
it kinda sounds like they might not, and then my question to you, Tim, is how often are the girls wrestling the boys?
They never wrestle the boys, that's why we separate the practice on the mats, it's in the rules, boys do not wrestle girls, it's been that way for 3 years.
Yeah.
We've already taken care of that. Highlighted in the paper I gave you was what they put out this last May, where there are schools who are going to their school board asking for their daughters to be able to wrestle with the boys at practice through school board discussion and parents allowing it. That's what's on the table right now. And
That's
I-
because girls used to wrestle boys, my
Cause
brother
I
wrestled.
don't even know that, is that
They
true?
did, yes, my brother had to wrestle a girl in high school, I was the wrestling person that he wrestled. I can tell you that girls learn a lot from boys. Girls are not as strong as boys, absolutely, hands down, but you can learn a lot from a really good wrestler, male or female. And my other question is, if boys can't wrestle with girls, then are you thinking it's gonna be a female coach versus a male coach? Because how is that any different than having one head coach that's a male if the girls are already separated?
It's just like we have Carson Bender's our girls' basketball coach. You
it's
can
not
have
necessarily
you can have a male girls' wrestling coach. You can, it's,
I
you
have a
gotta see what
point of-
applies and who's got the best qualifications.
I have a point
You
of
can't-
order real quick. The gentleman in the back in the blue shirt, would you please state your name so that we can capture the comments in the minutes,
Sure,
please?
Travis Kirchdorfer.
Thank you.
Can you spell your last name, sorry?
So it's Kirch, Kirchdorfer. Kirchdorfer.
Yeah, I'm Hooger Heidi, so I totally. Alright, thank you.
I've had to do it a lot.
Tim, I have a question for you. So my son wrestled with you and he was a freshman and it was a fantastic year. I'm not here with a personal agenda, I'm here to represent the community, which we've heard a lot from on both sides. So if we were to wait till next year, what does your plan look like to split the program? How do you see that going
Next year to this year.
next year? Like if we were to tell the community, we're gonna wait, Tim's got a plan, what can we tell them your plan is as far as splitting the program?
My plan is to keep it together this year.
Correct, I'm asking, so the community is, there's a split, people are wanting it split now. So if the board was to say we're gonna wait and split it next year, what can I go back and tell the community your plan is?
Well, it would be simple, I will support whoever's hired to the best of my ability. I'll give them all my notes, we'll work out practice times, because it doesn't just affect the high school community, it's gonna affect all your club programs, because somebody's losing gym space. So long, there's no place for them. I work together well, believe it or not, I work together well with a lot of people, I've been in business for myself for 23 years. You don't get there by not bending some of your own thought process sometimes. It's not the time, I'm sorry, what do people think? One more year to get this done properly is the correct path. And I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, and how many assistant coaches do you currently have?
I have 2 stipends,
Okay.
3, it depends, like last year I lost one because his baby came early. I was able to keep one even though his baby came, which was great, it should come. They come and go because it's hard. And you know what, the biggest complaint I get is this parent won't leave me alone.
Yeah.
Well, they've missed the chain of authority. Anybody that complains to Sean or the school board or you before they come to me, miss the chain of command because I don't know your complaint. Don't know if you're upset. And as these guys have known, when I do know it, this gentleman on my right for one, I'm like, here, this athlete and me, different styles, work with him. We tried, we left after 2 weeks. It's not cut and dry, but I've got 3 other people I've asked. There's a fantastic gentleman moving here from Big Fork that I'm hoping he'll be able to come on and be part of Vigilante Nation for wrestling. There's 3 different women that I know from colleges around that have just graduated that I'm trying really hard to move here, to be part of this. but it all takes time.
That's a
If you
great
pull the rug out from underneath the feet of it right now.
That's a great answer.
Okay, so I guess I'm still confused. So are you going to, and this would be direct towards you. Tim has pledged that he would work toward whatever happens in the future. Is your presumption, are we gonna be, or are you gonna be right back making this decision next year? Or are you see it, from what I've heard from you, I don't wanna put words in your mouth, is that you see it coming down the pike. You would take this upcoming year to sort of figure out how it's gonna go in conjunction with Tim, who has experience doing it, and just assume that it will be split next year? Is
Well, I
that kind
guess
of
the
your
best
thought?
point made was how many girls are, if we had 18 girls, which is phenomenal. What if only 5 come out next year?
Sure,
You know,
but
I
presuming
can't-
that that's, yes.
You know, maybe we'll have 30. I mean, it's gonna come to a point where we're gonna have to, and I think Tim agrees, because of the fact that if we have 30 girls and 30 boys, you're gonna have split times.
Just as practicality, so when more numbers, I mean, because I think that's the obvious answer, are we gonna split everything? You're like, well, I think we'd split whatever sport. Would we do it with JV, varsity, whatever,
Sure.
yeah, when time comes. I was just confused as to like, so if it's not a legal imperative, it may be a practical imperative, and it likely will eventually become a legal imperative in your plan, in your assessment.
The MHSA, who knows?
I don't even know.
Again, you know, cause I think, when you go into an MHS, an all-class vote, the Class C dominates, cause there's a lot of Class C, I mean, Class C says, hell no, we're not gonna vote that way. We lose a lot of things because there's a lot of Class C schools than anybody at any other level. So, I mean, the MHS, if they go, let's put it in an all-class vote, Class C is gonna say, heck no, we're not gonna split them, it's not in our best interest to force that. You know, because you have 2 girls wrestling and 30 boys, so it's not in our best interest. I mean, we now have a 3-day state wrestling tournament, it's a boys and girls separated tournament, I mean, they all wrestle at the same time, but it's separated on mats. I mean, that's the direction, it's one of the fastest growing sports in the nation. I mean, it truly is, I mean, our girls are phenomenal. You know, I mean, and so I think we're gonna have to look at it.
But the direction here is that it will likely happen, but not. I'm not trying to be difficult.
Yeah,
No, it's, you never, I mean, the MHSA, it could come down to a lawsuit, you don't know.
And
I mean, there's,
to balance on
Yeah.
exactly what Sean was saying, when I talked to Crystal, who was Crystal Zettner, who is our representative for NTSBA on the MHSA board, she stated exactly that, is that she doesn't even know that sometimes it occurs where they'll throw out a suggestion, it will move forward, and they'll approve it, and then they will backtrack and reconsider it 2-3 months later on it, so there's a lot of inconsistency. And she's from Bridger, and so she's one of those Class C schools you're talking about, so she was exactly, you know, what Sean is saying was exactly in line, is that she didn't even know, and she's sitting on the board.
Scott,
Yeah.
so we're talking about splitting the team early. So if we're sitting here talking about it being a matter of time and wanting to prepare, what does that look like as far as putting that plan in motion formally if we're not voting on that now?
We will be voting on it now, as far as splitting goes, because there's a motion on the table
Correct, but
currently.
waiting to split till next year.
Okay,
That doesn't
if
sound
it turns out to
formalized.
be that we wait until splitting, no, the motion is that we split
Right,
it this
correct,
year.
yes, correct.
If it fails, then we could conceivably reconsider it for next year, anytime between now and then. We could forego it for an additional year, depending on the decisions made by MHSA over the course of the next 12 months. So it's pretty much up to us to decide at any time that we choose to do so.
Or to provide some clarity, I mean, I guess that it would be a problem if there was a huge difference in numbers. I could amend the motion to split the following year, and then everyone would know that's the direction we're going, and if we want to reconsider it later, we could.
And we
Why could I do that?
You could do that too. You could forego it for this year and then,
Yeah, so I think a lot of it has been, and it's no one's fault, it sounds like M whatever it is, MHSA is the heart of the problem, because there's lack of clarity, there's inconsistency, et cetera. So I guess, I would like to provide people, and it seems like that confusion certainly extends to me, so I would like to amend my motion that so that everyone knows how, I don't even know what it says.
You have motion by trustee Bliska, second by Richardson, to separate the boys and girls restaurant program for 25-26 school year.
And I would amend my motion to say 26-27.
We have a second. Tristan, on that, do you pull your second as well?
It was me.
It was Tiffany, I'm sorry. Okay. So we have an amended motion that states that we are going to forego it for over the year timeframes.
So not for this year, for the following year.
The 26-27 school year. It's
26-27.
easier if we do that. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask a question. I mean, I realize that MHSA maybe will mandate the split or not mandate the split, but like, we keep talking about mat time and we have a team this size and, 30 girls or 30 boys, like, what is best for the kids? I mean, whether MHSA mandates the split or not, I feel like we're kind of missing that point. What is best for the kids? I just want to ask. I don't know what the answer is. I just want to ask the
For the
question.
record, your name?
Oh, sorry, Juliet Hahn, H-A-H-N.
Juliet Hahn, H-A-H-N. And I guess the reason I made that motion is like, it seems like there's a huge amount of confusion. And I think like, if everybody knows that's where we're going, we could always readdress it. Look, if there's 6 girls, like, maybe we'll change our minds, that's fine.
Can I clarify one thing?
Yeah,
We already have our practices split. Most of the things, so the girls have their time, okay? 2 mat, 1 mat, the boys. This year it's gonna look a little different if all stays together, okay? So the boys will have 2 mats at one time, the girls will have 2 mats at one time, so they are separated. I lost my train of thought. What's best for the kids, we're already working that direction. We just don't wanna rush everything on them to where it's not right, I guess. So we're working towards it, but it's not as simple as you think of, okay, And as to answer your other question, yes, the foreseeable split somewhere. But as you were saying, I do use caution because those highlighted things, you can go back 3 more years on the website of MHSA, and every year they're slowly back working what they're saying. So be smart, please, on the legal aspect, and don't get yourselves in trouble. Just be patient, I guess I would say.
I was just gonna ask, with that motion or the rescind, are we tying our hands to making that happen? Do we want to tie our hands in a year from now and we don't know what's gonna happen within this next year?
Within the motion itself, it could be rescinded at any time. We could make that decision tonight and then turn around and backtrack it or, remove it, any time from now until later if we chose to do so. It's a little messy when we start doing, making motions and then retracting them. On a personal point, I would prefer to proactively say that we are going to move forward with it in the upcoming year, or we wait then and make the action that is being proposed until next year before we act on it. But the motion was duly made, and so I will respect that.
So we currently have a motion to amend the original one.
Actually, it's a substitute.
Did you substitute?
I'll call it a
I'd like to
substitute.
substitute, yes.
Okay. Do we need to vote on a substitute?
That's what's on, that's what we were discussing right now.
So just
Yep.
one more thing, we do wanna do what's best for the kids. So I guess my only clarification is for everybody who wants to split the team, that's fine if that's eventually what's gonna happen. But how is that any different than what we're doing now by providing assistant coaches to each of those teams to help coach all the kids? Is there a female that wants to coach that could be brought on to volunteer? I mean, the volunteers are already always taken, I would assume. If you're good at what you do and you wanna volunteer for the kids, then go for it. But also, it's still a head coach with multiple coaches, they still get a coach, I'm trying to figure out like what's the difference, how's that different
That's
from what we're
it,
doing?
that's exactly what it is.
And
You got a head coach, you have multiple assistants, I think you put in 2 head coaches, you got problems. But I think really, we're here now to table this thing, so it's not like Tim used the words, hold the rug under, like, we've got wrestling coming up quick, open mats and all
Well,
this
is there
stuff
anything the
happening.
girls didn't get last year that they could have gotten from their own head coach?
I'll get you. Go ahead, Mr. Hernandez.
So, to go to Newly's thing, so if he said, stating if we do separate coaches, it's not a good deal, so are we saying Helena High and Capitol High got it wrong? They're not right? Like, their wrestling programs, Capitol High's program is phenomenal. And they chose to do 2 separate head coaches because it's gonna benefit both teams. Like, that's my question to you guys, like, why would they do it?
That's pure numbers, in my opinion.
They have like 7 girls.
Ma'am, please.
They have a lot of wrestling.
Yeah, please.
My name is Kylie Ruth. The question I have comes from a personal hours perspective. I know Mr. Merkel mentioned that the men's and women's basketball coaches, as an example, practice at different times and therefore have coaches that oversee those practices at different times. So if we were to say 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, that's 10 hours per head coach in practice. The question that I have for Tim, knowing that you're predicting that this year is going to be a little different than last year, is are you concerned about the paid personnel hours that you will have available on your coaching staff with your potentially four stipend coaches to, in essence, supplement and honor and respect the amount of time that your coaching staff is putting in to run potentially 2 separate practice periods, if I'm understanding?
If I'm understanding your question.
I'm happy to clarify.
So, as it stands right now, or my proposal that I did,
Yeah,
the boys and girls are going at the same time,
okay, so 4 to 6, hypothetical.
hypothetical,
Okay,
okay? They'll be separated, some of them will be in the weight room, agility training, different speed training for part of it, for some of, and, well, the other ones are on the mat. And we're just gonna switch at a certain point in practice. So that works well for numbers with the coaches on staff this year.
okay.
Now, does that answer your
It
question?
totally does, and I appreciate you clarifying, because I was confused on whether or not it was separate at the same time or separate on the clock, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And I didn't want you working 40 hours when every other coach in the district only has to work 20 hours, is that hypothetical? So.
Well,
thank
the
you for-
wrestling coach, we
thank you
don't
for-
sleep during season, we work around.
Thank you for clarifying that for me.
You're welcome.
Additional comment, please.
You know, I would just say this, you know, by, you know, Tim is trying to implement a plan to make sense of it, right, with the girls and the boys. At the same time, the spaces are already small as it is, and nothing substitutes mat time. You know, not going to the weight room, not running around the dump gym. Like, mat time is the only time they can get mat time, unless you have a mat at your house. So by having them separate, that's what we're talking about. I think that's what the parents, those that wrote letters in and are kind of concerned here, that have students here that are wrestling, is I want my son to have mat time. When he's there, it's mat time. Like in any coach here that's wrestled, which I've wrestled, knows nothing substitutes that time on the mat. And so, I mean, really, they're saying it they're telling you right now, all the students are not getting the mat time that they need. That's the truth. If you have to rotate people in and out of the mat, they're not getting the mat time that a lot of schools are getting. And I bet you that was probably maybe a main thing of why these other schools have split, is because of mat time. So it's just something for you guys to consider while you're making this decision. I know it's like, well, let's put it off. But to someone's point that they made over here, you know, Juliet, is that what is best for the students? And we all want to see our kids excel, and mat time is, that's where you excel. And if anybody has a comment?
No, let me finish. I will comment on that. the issue, the main issue we deal with our wrestlers is we are not strong enough, and that's where our injuries come from. This went to a lot of thought. How are we gonna, because, I mean, like, certain kids, I've been running open mats for over a month. I just had a camp that was free to all the high schoolers, where some of them didn't even show. We go to state tournaments, we qualify, but then we're manhandled. I'm trying to get the program strong and healthy so we're not injured as well. And we don't spend the whole time on a normal practice on the mat. We condition. We work out in the weight room, hallways. We use the stairs. Like, there's, I mean, you can criticize how I coach, I guess, but at the end of the day, I'm looking out for what's best for all the kids.
Yes.
Sir, Kevin Diggins, I'm one of the PA assistant coaches. One of the biggest differences I see too that would reflect on both sides of the argument is what's best for the kids. And from what I see, having a plan is what's best for the kids. And where we're at right now is we are building a plan for next year. And if there's anything that really disrupts that, it really puts our kids further behind for whichever team, you know, has to deal with that turbulence and everything that comes out of it. If the further we delay this thing, you know, this is a February decision, a March decision. It's not a July decision. Right now, for our kids to have success moving forward into next season, having a plan is really the best course of action we have for them. I've been coaching for a very long time. I've done a lot of conditioning on and off the mats. And I know just how effective that is to ensure that our athletes are prepared to go that 6 minutes, because that's a grueling experience. If you've ever had the opportunity, you know what I'm talking about. And the only way to get there is through burning calories. And we can burn calories on the stairs. Just like everybody else had said, we can burn calories in the weight room. We can ensure that these kids have the lungs to actually compete when they're on the mat and doing it for real. And the rest of the time, we can get their technique refined so they have a chance to succeed. So I think the plan that we have in place is very solid. I think that having a plan to move forward only benefits the kids. And
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kevin, I have a question, clarification on the statement. When you say it's a February, March decision, the substitute motion that's now out is to implement the split in the next school year, so the 26-27. Does that give you enough time for that plan? Because you say you've got a plan in place for this year, talking about the 25-26 season, so then that motion would then allow the plan to be developed for the split for the 26-27. Is that enough time, at least? I just want to make sure that fits with that March, February timeline, potentially.
I think that'd be appropriate for the next discussion, because to echo the participation comment that was made earlier, if there's, you know, if one of the teams dwindles to 5, is the conversation necessary? If the team can fit in the room that we have, is the conversation necessary? I mean, really, at this point in time, we should be talking about how much more assistance we can get to keep all of these kids taken care of and do the best we can to support the program that we do have. And then, you know, have lead time if there is going to be a major decision made, because we're already practicing. The kids are already learning. And to rock the boat right now, we have 4 seniors that don't deserve to have their world rocked heading into their senior year.
So one thing I guess I've been trying to struggle with here is, as a board, we're here to provide the leadership and guidance, and what's best for the kids, what's best for the program, what's still fiscally responsible, but yet attainable and practical to implement. And that's where I guess I'm having a hard time. I'm hearing a lot of challenges to potentially overcome if we make too soon of a decision based on the information we have today. Making the decision today but delaying the split for a year, there may be changes which then gets into potential, you know, motion rescissions or adjustments, which is fine. I mean, we can do that. My concern is that I want to make sure that we provide that leadership and guidance to the program so that they have the appropriate time to make those decisions and get the plan in place. So if the substitute motion were to pass for the 26-27 school year, I am concerned that is that enough time, and leave MHSA out of it, because if they come down with a mandate, then we'll have to deal with it at that point in time. But I guess from a board perspective, that's what I wanna make sure that we're taking that into consideration very seriously, because this is going to be a program change, the kids, the plan in place. I'm famous for saying from the Army, you know, no plan survives the first shot fired, but you also wanna have a good plan going in, and this would definitely be a first shot, that then that plan has to be scrapped and we have to completely start with a new one, potentially late, in my opinion, at least late in this season. So I guess I'm a little bit more, from a personal standpoint, I would rather revisit this discussion in February, when we have a better chance of numbers and stuff for the next season, when we're discussing this, so that we have that information. Because there's a lot of what ifs right now, and I don't like making a lot of decisions on what ifs, especially if a slight delay does give, at least in my opinion, a slight delay gives us the ability to get better information. Now, that doesn't mean that I do or don't support splitting the program or what is best for the kids. It just comes to the standpoint of we are charged with that guidance, and so having that time for everybody to make that decision and then implement it fairly is really what I'm looking for. So I know it's a statement, there was a couple questions, but thank you for your perspective on that, that helps.
Okay, I'm close to calling the question. I think we've debated and discussed this sufficiently. However, I would give the board one last opportunity to make closing comments on the motion. And the motion is to proactively split the program for the 2026-2027 school year wrestling season. Any other questions or any more additional comments from the board?
No, I would just speak, in favor of the motion. I think that providing that clarity about when it's gonna happen, giving everybody a year to do it. If we wanna revisit it, great, but like, I don't really wanna have this discussion again next year. I'd love to have just a plan going forward and have a year to make it, and I think, so for me, I think that serves those needs, and I think that I appreciate your focus on the student athletes in the sense that putting them first and putting those needs first and giving them some certainty would be helpful. So I thought that's one, but there are lots of other perspectives, so that's fine.
Mark?
Just a question of order. We amended the motion.
Actually, substitute motion.
Okay, we substituted the motion.
Yep.
Is it, she seconded the first motion. Did you second the second one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
that was my
Good
So
question.
it's not called an amended motion?
No, it's actually a substitute motion.
We didn't wanna have too many votes.
Can I ask a clarification? If it does not pass as or as the motion, does it stay?
Yeah, nothing changes.
Nothing changes?
Nothing changes.
Okay.
And as board chair, I'll have the last say on this, is that considering that we've delayed this now for the subsequent season and to find out what kind of numbers that the wrestling program is going to realize in the upcoming season, it give us a better perspective as opposed to having to rescind the motion if we decided that we made a mistake. I would be in favor of reconsidering it at a later date. However, at this point in time, I would call the question for the motion to split the wrestling program for the 2026-2027 wrestling season. Although, and I'm going to do a roll call vote, so there'll be individual members. And Mark?
Aye.
No.
Kristen? No.
No.
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
No.
And I'm a no. So motion fails 4-3. 4-3.
Your math is correct.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you all that participated in the conversation. I know that there's a lot of passion. I know that there's a lot of energy. I love to see that kind of passion and energy, especially with our parents when it comes to our kids, because it shows that you care. And I think all of the people that talked this evening showed a genuine interest in not only their own student, which is natural, but all the other students, the district, and the face of the program. So really do appreciate your input. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to item number 4, which is an update on our fiscal 2026 budget.
Okay, I'm gonna pass out hard copies of the information that was also linked on the website. You wanna take one and pass them down, you guys?
Is this the same thing as in our packet?
I think it was separate from the packet, but it
Oh,
was
it was.
emailed out, yeah, and it is the same thing.
The same thing.
Do we get a budget too or no?
Coming
Yes, you
around.
can.
Okay.
Just an aside there, that was
It's
a
just
historic.
okay with the union if you pass that.
Yeah.
I just never, I don't know if that was out, we had a pack, never pass it out.
Official passer outer, nice.
The mask.
Mask.
Hey, yeah.
What?
Mask. Lifting
I don't want
mask
you scabs
mandate.
here.
We're still in old business.
COVID.
Did you want?
Well, I don't remember it.
But you were here.
Well, if it was 4-3, I was.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
were.
we've had a couple of them, not many.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Well, you've got a big commute coming up, huh?
Oh, yeah.
You've had a lot of.
Got my 10-minute
Yeah,
walk, it's gonna
5
be a tough one. Can't beat that.
Tough in January.
Oh, shoot, we're not even, we still got
We
some
got policies.
doozies, we got policies coming up.
Jill, you don't have to stay if you don't want to.
Well, I wanted to.
But it would seem very, very rude to leave right after
Oh,
you
I'm
just got
moving.
hired.
It's fine, I don't have anything else to do.
If anyone does want wish, you do not feel obligated to stick around, so,
It's fine.
okay, I'll hold you to that.
I might regret this.
I'm sure you will. Okay, Dan,
You ready?
yep,
Okay. Or did you want to wait for Martin?
oh, yes, I suppose we should.
He took his own recess.
As we're sitting temporary or in recess, there again, there may have been a little bit of confusion as far as how something gets placed on the agenda. And so just for the board members, just as an update on it, is that technically by state law, it takes 2 trustees to demand that an element be placed on the agenda. I am not that big of a stickler when it comes to that. If there's a genuine need to do that or a genuine discussion, then I will put it on without the benefit of the extra individual saying that. However, if there's some reason why I think that it may not be in the best interest to place something on the agenda, then I will have that conversation with the trustee. So just because you say that you'd want to have something on there, doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna be automatic. That if there's some reason, and I will give reasons behind that and see whether or not that individual continues or would still like to do that. And we might even bring the superintendent into that discussion. So just wanted to make that clear that I'm not a stickler on that 2-person rule. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me in the informal setting that we as a board have had. Okay, Dan, go
Right.
ahead.
So this is just a budget update. Things are kind of coming into focus as we barrel down the road towards our August board meeting when we do adopt the fiscal year 26 budget. And really what I'm trying to accomplish today is just to give you some numbers to chew on, think about and be aware of as we adjust and adapt for the next school year. And the main thing that we're gonna be talking about is just the first page here. The rest of the pages are there kind of as a history lesson or just a little bit of insight into some of the things that Jill and I are looking at on a regular basis as we prepare and try to guide the district. And then the last thing I wanted to make sure we touched on tonight was the whole issue with the federal title funding, so that the board has a perspective of what's going on with that. If you're following the emails from MTSBA or other advocacy organizations, or even on social media, and you follow any education pages, you're probably aware of that and curious about what the impact will be locally here for East Helena if some of those funding holds stay in place. So we're gonna start at the top of this page where it says EHPS July 2025 budget update. That very first number in the box is our current fiscal year 25 general budget, and actually it's not our current fiscal year, that's a typo, it was last year, because FY 25 was last year, so that was last year's budget. And that's just a point of reference moving forward. And the reason I'm giving you these lines up here at the top and not just telling you what next year's budget is gonna be is so you get a little bit of perspective as how our budget comes together and what some of these factors that factor into our budget mean in terms of dollars. Because there's some consistencies here year over year that you might see. And so where these numbers came from was what's called the preliminary budget data sheet, or Jill and I like to call it the PBDS for short. And that's labeled there. So we got multiple preliminary budget data sheets from OPI this winter and spring throughout the course of the legislative session. And each one, if you actually go a few pages in, about page 4 will be an actual preliminary budget data sheet. It has OPI's logo on it. It says fiscal year 2026. This one says post-session at the top, so this one included all of the legislative changes. The big number that you always want to, and you can, I'm not gonna get bogged down onto the detail of each line item, and if somebody has questions about any of those or you wanna talk about them later, I'm happy to meet with you to talk about them. The big line that we always look at is we go to the page 2, section 9, where it says budget limits, and we're always curious about the highest budget without a vote, excluding tuition, excess reserves, flexible non-levy authority, other over-based revenues. So the highest budget without a vote is the number that the school district is gonna be able to budget in the next fiscal year without going to the taxpayers and asking for a voted levy. So that takes into account the state base aid and any over-base mills that historically East Helena has approved for the school system, and that's where that number comes from. And so if you look at this one, it's $15,394,520. So we get multiples of these throughout the session when the legislature's meeting. And what OPI is trying to do is give superintendents and business managers a snapshot into what your budget might be for next year. Because by January and February, we're already planning for the next school year. So the first preliminary budget data sheet that came in was the pre-session. And that one took all the calculations and used everything from fiscal year 2025, no new legislation. And the reason I think that one's important is because the difference between fiscal year 25 and fiscal year 26 on the pre-session preliminary budget sheet was $309,492, and that comes purely from an increase of A and B. So we added 68 students, and that's why page 3 of your packet shows the enrollment summary that's on the front of every month's supporting documents. If you look at the and this is one is from the June board meeting. So if you look at the bottom, we had 1,959 students at the end of the school year. A year ago, we had 1,891. The difference purely in those number of students enrolled amounts to $309,492 in budget authority for the district. So that's a great thing for us when things are moving positive in terms of student enrollment. Be aware that that's not a free $399,000. That comes with additional staff, teachers, books, desks, chairs, probably another classroom that has to have light and heat. So there are costs associated with it, but it is generally a benefit to the school district when we have increase in enrollment. And conversely, that's an issue when schools have declining enrollment, because if we had a loss of 68 students, our $14 million budget would have shrunk $309,000. And actually it wouldn't because of 3-year averaging, but it would still have gone down. The next line says House Bill 15 max preliminary budget data sheet. And this was, House Bill 15 was the 3% increase. And like they have in the past several sessions, the legislature passed the inflationary increase early in the session to give districts a picture of how that was gonna impact their budget. 3% is the maximum allowed by law, by current law, for the legislature to increase school district budgets year over year. It doesn't matter if inflation is 9%, 12%, or 20%. The most Montana can increase school budgets is 3%. And that's been a topic of conversation at the legislature and among the folks working on the interim study of school finance right now. The reason I included that is just so you have a picture of what a 3% budget increase does to our budget. And you can, and I didn't calculate it out for you there, but you can see the difference. So it's $717,000, that's not the 3% increase. The 3% increase is the increase over the $309,000. So it's about $400 and, help me out, $8,000, am I doing my math right there? Is what 3% amounts to for our budget. Now, Scott, you might know the answer to this, and I think I do, but the legislature approved 3% and 3% in House Bill 15, is that correct? Okay, so we can already plan for fiscal year 27, knowing that we're gonna see another 3% increase. So that $400,000, you can kind of have in your back pocket and know that that's baked into the fiscal year 27 budget as well. The $309,000, not so much, because that depends on enrollment, okay? And these numbers will kind of come into focus when we get down into the sheet a little bit more as to why they're important. The next line is House Bill 28, maximum preliminary budget data sheet. And House Bill 28, actually there was several other pieces of legislation that were just cleanup pieces of legislation that clarified some things in school funding formula. It amounted to about $110,000 increase for us, and my understanding is that's permanent legislation, so that will be part of our budget moving forward. And then the last thing was the post-session preliminary budget data sheet, and that included the law that we talked about for 4 months, the STARS Act. And this is a very interesting piece. The STARS Act, and that's a preliminary budget data sheet that's in your packet that you have right now, pushed our maximum general fund budget to $15,394,520, which is a $1.2 million increase above last year. And in the right-hand box there, it included information that says the STARS Act actual impact was about $394,378, and that's just a calculation from the line above it, okay? The difference between $1.2 million and $827,000. I think the reason that that's important is for trustees to know, and this was a disappointment for me and I think for Jill when we finally got the data sheet, was that the whole time we were talking about the STARS Act, all the information that we're getting from MASBO, MTSBA, school administrators of Montana, who are our representatives in the legislature, was that for East Helena, you should see somewhere between $450,000 and $550,000 additional dollars in your school district budget. What we didn't understand at the time that we were talking about that was the big component of the STARS Act to benefit districts was the double quality educator payment for all certified staff. And so the quality educator payment is something that was built into the school funding formula probably 6 or 8 years ago, maybe more than that actually. It could have even come from a lawsuit in the 90s. And it provides an additional base payment for every certified staff member in the district. And so what the STARS Act did was double that payment. So when we were getting those calculations from MTSBA, they were looking at our data at OPI and saying, oh, you have 126 certified teachers, take that number times approximately $4,100, plus you have some administrators who have certificates, and add all that together, and we're estimating $450,000 to $550,000 is gonna be your benefit. Well, we already get a double quality educator payment for all staff who are in their first 3 years of teaching, and that was part of Gianforte's, a law that he pushed when he first got into office, I can't remember the name of it now. The Teach Act. Thank you.
Act,
Yeah,
there you go.
it's obvious. Which provided a double quality educator payment for every early career teacher in the first 3 years of their career. And so we had 36 teachers who were already getting the double quality educator payment under the Teach Act, and that's why our STARS Act money was, the actual impact was less than we had anticipated.
Is the STARS Act permanent also?
Yes.
So then when they roll off of the Teach
Well,
Act,
as permanent as legislation can be,
oh,
but yeah.
they allow, so when they roll off of the Teach Act, will they then be accounted for under the STARS Act?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, I think the Teach Act kind of just goes away because now it's every certified school.
Okay.
That's a great question. So, the great news is, and I've said this to Scott a couple times during the session, and I'll say it here in the board meeting, a $1.2 million increase for us, that's almost 10%, that's probably an 8.5% increase on our budget. I've never seen anything like that in my career. No matter what you think of the legislature or your thoughts and ideas, they did do us some favors in this session in terms of school funding. It was a very pleasant surprise for those of us who have worked in schools for a long time to be thought of in that way, and have the legislature push some money in our direction. So that's been a great benefit. So $1.2 million, we met with the Budget and Finance Committee a couple months ago and talked about what we might want to do with the STARS Act money. This next section below the tan line just talks about what our increased costs are going to be in the budget moving forward for fiscal year 26. And this is, Jill and I kind of put this together last week. So our insurance premiums increased by 8%. When we take the total amount that we spend on health insurance and multiply it by 8%, that's about a $140,000 increase that's going to be to the budget for health insurance. Certified steps and lanes, this is an estimate at $290,000. It's probably a little bit high. Where that comes from is we've spent about $7.1 million a year on salaries for professional staff for teachers. So a 2% increase on that is going to give you about a $140,000 increase. And with steps and lanes, we have about 126-ish teachers. A step and or a lane is about $900 to $1,100 in the salary schedule. Most teachers step, not all teachers, and every year somewhere between about 25 and 40 teachers earn a lane change by getting additional credits or a master's degree. Some move 2 lanes. This year I've got at least one that's moving 3 lanes. So when we add those anticipated lane changes, the steps, and the $140,000 negotiated increase, we estimated that at about $290,000. I went back and looked at it and thought it might be about $30,000 high above what it's actually going to be, but we don't know for sure until we get everybody's transcripts in the fall. Certified pay increase. Last month we passed a MOU with classified staff, classified pay increase. We had originally negotiated a 25-cent an hour increase, but when the STARS Act passed, we felt like we should put our best foot forward with our hourly staff, who are a pretty low-paid staff in the district, and offered them to kick the 25-cent an hour increase back to next year and take a 75-cent an hour increase this year. When we add up all of the classified positions, I'm just telling you how I do my math, which might be a little scary, but all I do is add up all the number of positions that we have authorized in the budget, the number of hours that individual or that position is scheduled to work. So for instance, a bus driver or a paraprofessional or a school secretary. And when we do all that, we come up with about 101,000 hours. So it makes the math really simple. When you do a 75-cent raise, you're looking at $75,000, or $76,094 is what it calculated out to. We approved natural gas increase last month of 33%. We went from $3 a decatherm to $4. We added up how much we spent on gas, and we anticipate we'll spend another $13,000 next year on natural gas. Then we got into these positions that we are building back into the budget, and these are positions that we had to eliminate last year when the levy failed. So the ag teacher, we added a second business teacher. We added authorized position for foods and nutrition at the middle school. We haven't filled that yet. We funded the EVMS computers position, which we had to scrape together last year to try to keep that. And we had originally cut a section of 5th grade that we added back in. We are budgeting those at $74,000. That's not the starting pay for those positions. That's the average pay for a teacher in the district times approximate cost of employment, which is insurance, work comp, help me out, taxes, right, employment taxes, all those, that cost them. And we don't calculate those out to the penny. We use a percentage multiplier, and so that's a little bit of a rough number, but it's pretty accurate. The reason that I prefer to do it that way is when we add those positions into the district, if we budget them at starting pay, 10 years from now, that individual's not at starting pay anymore, but our budget is still our budget. Even though we may have inflationary increases and otherwise, it's wiser to be building those positions into the budget if you want something that's sustainable for longevity at what that average cost is gonna be. We're looking to add an additional special education teacher. This was a conversation in negotiations. We're looking to add hopefully 2 special education teachers. I'm not sure that we can afford the second one. And the way our hiring has gone today, we're behind the 8 ball by at least 1, maybe 2 positions. And we're talked about additional core teachers at EVMS in the high school. Most of the positions that we're adding this year are at EVMS in the high school. I'm not sure that we have funding in the budget for additional teachers at EVMS in the high school right now. We talked about adding some money to the textbook purchase line item. The number that we talked about was $150,000, which would bump that up to around $420,000. I'm afraid that's still gonna be low, just because our adoption this year for ELA was around 400,000 and we only adopted 6 through 12, correct?
And pre-K.
And pre-K, because you guys were already taken care of, or K-5 was already taken care of. And then we need to put some more money towards technology expenses because we don't have ESSER dollars anymore to cover our technology. When I add up that column, I come up with a number of about 1.2 million, and that's where our money's going. We feel like we're in pretty good shape. Jill and I will be working hard this week and next week to refine a lot of that and get it dialed in for the August board meeting. But I want you to be aware that that number that you're gonna see for the fiscal year 26 budget is gonna be that $15,394,520 number. Questions about any of that stuff so far? Yeah.
Other than in 2020, my first board meeting, I think we looked at a budget of $9.9 million.
When I started in 2001, it was 3.9 million.
Wow.
Things have changed just a little bit.
Yeah, bread was 10 cents.
Right. Gas was 16 cents a gallon. And then down at the bottom, I just wanted to talk a little bit about title. I want you to be aware that we have received assurances from the Office of Public Instruction that they have received the Title I allocation for the district already from the federal government. That's the top one. Last year we received $407,000. This year we knew it was going to be a little lower. It came in at $374,000. The reason it's lower is the funding remained level from the federal government, but more schools in Montana qualified for title. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
So we had the same pie, but we're cutting more pieces out of it. So we knew that was going to go down a little bit. We are anticipating about a $20,000 carryover from this year's title into next year, so that'll help to fill that gap just a little bit. The vast majority of our money in Title I is going into salaries for paraprofessionals, some instructional coaching salaries, and teachers and instructional tutors. The title areas that are in limbo are Title IIA. There's other ones, but these are the ones that we received. Title IIA, which is professional development money. It's more than I thought it was. $70,302 is what we got last year. This year so far we don't know if we're gonna get it or what we're gonna get. That money is expressly set aside for districts for professional development. We take all that money and put it towards our instructional coaching salaries. So, the reason that's justified is instructional coaching, or instructional coaches, that's what they do, is professional development for teachers. They're working side by side with teachers, they're working with grade level teams, they're working with departments at the high school on instructional strategies, curriculum techniques, understanding better ways to connect with kids. And so that's a big hit for us because our instructional coaches are already under contract for next year. We can't cancel those contracts. So if that money doesn't materialize, it'll be a hit for us in the district in terms of our budget. And we'll have to figure out where we're gonna pay that from. Title 4A is apparently, we've gotten numbers on that from OPI, but a lot of the information that I'm seeing from AASA, that's the Superintendent's Association, School Administrators, is that one is still kind of held up, so I'm a little hazy on that. What we do with our Title 4A money is we split it in half. Half of it goes towards the enrichment program that mostly serves upper elementary, middle school kids with enrichment and after-school classes. It's where our Friday night ski trips come from, our Friday night fishing trips. The enrichment program started originally as a grant from Board of Crime Control, and the whole purpose was providing healthy activities for kids after hours with responsible adults. And if Title IV was to be pulled, we would lose our enrichment program. The other half of it we use for technology purchases. The next one is the big one, 21st Century. That's a competitive grant that we've applied for 4 times and received 4 times. It's a 5-year grant cycle, and actually maybe 5 times. We've had 21st Century for a long time. It does provide $93,000 to the district, and it fully funds our after-school program at Radley and Prickly Pear Elementary. And that's a program that is targeted for children of poverty. So they have to qualify and participate. It serves about 40-ish kids, am I right? Yeah. And it provides after-school care till, I believe, 5:30 every night. They're there at least till 5:30, sometimes 6 o'clock. I see parents picking their kids up. And so it goes back to the whole latchkey kid situation and trying to prevent that situation. So these are some of the most vulnerable kids in our community. We're pretty anxiously awaiting that one. Our friends at OPI tell us the money's coming, don't worry about it. But when you read the national rhetoric, it sounds like it's a little more dire, so I'm not quite sure who to believe, but we're holding out a breath that money's coming through. We do have 2 contract positions in 21st Century, one for the administrator and one for the individual who has to report all the data to OPI. Those contracts have been issued and signed. The rest of the staff are hourly pay, so if we were to cancel the program, we wouldn't have to make up the $93,000, but we'd be out of program. So that may be, Scott and I talked last week, a tough decision that the board has to consider is, do we want to try to continue the program? And if so, how are we going to pay for it? And if we're not going to continue it, we need to let parents know so they know what's going on with their kids. And the last one is money that we didn't actually always get, but Title V, the rural, it's rural funding, I can't even remember the name of it, and it's $38,000 last year. It is one of the titles that is being held up by the Department of Education, $38,000 last year, and all of that money goes into teacher salaries, and that's really what it's intended for, is to help rural school districts be able to pay teachers. So the hard part about the story tonight is if the title funding does not materialize, that's a $234,000 hit. Some of it we'll have to absorb, some of it we could cut if we have to. We'll have to make probably some tough decisions. I guess personally, I think that the money probably is gonna be released at some point. But even if it is released for next year, I think what Department of Education is telling us is, hey, this is a little bit of a shot across your bow. You can't count on this money like districts have been used to for years and years and years, and we may have to tighten our belts in some of these areas. So. All right, I think with that, Be quiet. Questions, but.
Well, great report, Dan, appreciate that, it's very comprehensive. Next month's our biggie.
Yeah.
So that's when we approve next year's budget. Based on that, do we know if we'll have these answers by then, or are we gonna have to take a leap of faith and a contingency as far as some of these title, I'm most interested in the title funds.
I think that if we don't have an answer, yay or nay, from the US Department of Education on it, Jill and I will at least come in with some options for how we can fill these holes for a year. And by then, we'll have the general fund budget dialed in a little tighter and be able to say, we might be able to absorb some of this through the general fund, some of it we may have to tap some outside resources. We do have some levers that we can pull that the state has provided. For instance, we're able to pay like counselor salaries out of the building reserve money. That's not a habit that I think we wanna always be in, but for a year, if we had to, we could shift a counselor to building reserve and then use that general fund money to fund something else that's not being funded by title. I don't think that's a long-term solution, but it could be a one-year solution.
There's a lot of districts that play that game and that bites them hard.
I wanna be super careful about that, and that's something that we've always been very cautious about. But it is, there are some tools like that at our disposal that give us a little bit of flexibility.
Any other questions, comments?
And we may need to pull the budget committee together for a meeting between now and August, but I'll let you know.
Okay, perfect. And that committee is Martin, Tiffany, interest. So, be prepared to ignore your email.
I'll call you. All right.
Okay, if there's no other questions on our budget update, like I said, this will be revisited for final vote next month. So this will be top priority on our agenda. Okay, before we move on to new business, and Clint, I was gonna give you the opportunity. You are a heck of a lot braver of a person than I was. I would have fogged out of here a long time ago, so.
There's a lot to learn here, Dan, and I always encourage people from Staley Engineering just to go and sit and, sit in the background. There's more things you can learn from just watching. So, thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, so, does anybody need to take a quick break before we dive into these meetings? Okay, we'll take a temporary recess, take a quick break. We'll reconvene at 7:30 in the session. And the first item under new business will be our first reading of policy revisions and updated new policies. I'm gonna end up taking these things one at a time. I know, but by doing so, then we can hit them, let them go, and then move forward on it. But
We're gonna vote on them
yep,
one at a time?
vote on them separately on it with different comments. My guess, Jill, just take a deep breath. To your Zen moment, that a lot of these will just be automatic. So some of them will not be.
I've only got
Just
comments on about half of them.
Yeah.
I got tape.
Go to the legislature, Tyrell, if you wanna talk to them. If these are
Is there
duplicative of
anything
what
about
already happened,
wrestling in here?
No.
the time has
I
passed.
think we're past that.
See how responsive they are.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Wrestling cattle, that's the one that's in.
Yeah, don't say the effort. Do not. God, I'm just about ready to spit my teeth out.
It's Montana, come on, you don't have sense of humor.
Just say that, but nah. Okay, first item on our agenda is consideration of policy 3665, student safety.
So this is a new policy from MTSBA. I guess, can I just start by saying that with the changeover from Chris to Tony Koenig as the director, Chris Goss used to do our policy maintenance program. So these policies came to us in a completely different format than we're used to getting them. And so we've struggled a little to be totally prepared for tonight's meeting. And so if there's any of these that we have to kick back and bring back on first reading next month, I don't think that's the end of the world, but these are time sensitive. The MTSBA does want us to get them into our policy manual. So 3665 is a brand new policy. It does not exist in our manual right now. I did offer a couple edits in line 23 where it says the district may designate certain employees and, first of all, this is a policy about background checks. And the irony of this policy is that pretty much everything is in it we've been doing for 15 years.
Or better.
Yeah, so, for better or worse, we were a little bit ignorant about what we didn't have to do regarding background checks, and when the legislature, changed the law about background checks, they actually changed the law to be more in line with what our practice has been forever. So, yeah, actually, so we've been background checking all these individuals all along. In line 23, where it says the district may designate certain employees and volunteers who will never have unsupervised contact with students, I would like to change the word never to not, who will not have, just because I think never is kind of an ultimatum type word that nobody can ever say never. And are therefore exempt from background checks. We don't really exempt people, but there are situations. So when it says contact with students and are therefore exempt from background check requirements, such designation may include but are not limited to, and I was gonna say such designations are, instead of include but not limited to, that seems like legalese to me, but I could debate that. I would like us to list guest speakers for classrooms and assemblies. Contractors and tradespeople, and members of the PTO or booster club. Now, we will background check those people if we're asked to. Generally, a classroom guest speaker, that's gonna be like the banker from the bank coming in to talk to a business class, or a farmer coming in to talk to the egg kids. They're usually there for a half an hour, and they usually are met at the office and walk to the classroom where they're going to speak. It's not like we give these people unfettered access to our kids in our school, and it would be quite a burden when we're bringing somebody in for a half-hour presentation to require them to go for a fingerprint background check and wait 2 weeks for the results to come in. So it would be at least to list those folks. When I'm talking about contractors and tradespeople, I'm talking about typically like the guy who blows out our sprinklers. We haven't made that person get a background check in the past. Our contractors who come in through the back entrance, go to the boiler room, check the boilers, like our plumbers or electricians who are working in there. When we had contractors working in this building on the addition, every guy that came in from the crew was background checked. So when they're in the school and around the kids, we're background checking them, but when they're just popping in and out to do their job, I feel like we could have some leeway there. And then we do background check members of the PTO and Boosters Club. I think that one I could go either way on. Sometimes I think it seems like a little bit of an extra burden, but none of those folks have ever complained about having to go get a background check. In fact, I think they kind of appreciate it. So that, I guess I could take or leave it.
So what's on here is just suggestions, right?
Yeah.
But administrator, staff, maintenance workers are background checked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
No agricultural exemption, Mark.
Yeah, no. Any paid staff, for sure. Any paid staff. And honestly, most of our volunteers.
Those sound like smart changes.
Yeah, I don't have any issues with the people you've identified.
Can I ask a question?
Is it a time, okay?
Can we hold on just a quick second? Go ahead, real quick.
No, I think, the only thing I was thinking is that, you say guest speakers, contractors or trades and PTO Booster Club members, I guess. Do we want to, I'm just looking for flexibility I'm always looking for that flexibility. If you write, A, B, and C, well, what about what happens with these children? Not that I wanna open it up to everything or anything, but, is there a way that you could maybe say that this is, in your procedures, so that you can adjust them in your procedures, you know, your handbook there a little bit simpler. I don't know if that's a possibility or not.
And where I would go with this, and you didn't like to have that limited, such designations are. That's why they include that, may include but are not limited to, because it provides the flexibility that you're specifically saying. So I would suggest that we keep that language in, and then go ahead and list the individuals that you had mentioned. And then if there's additional flexibility we need to do, then we can go ahead and do that. Yeah.
The high school students that work in the elementary school, do they get background checked?
Nope,
And they're sometimes left alone.
they don't have a criminal background.
Okay. And they're under the age group.
Right, that's why they don't have, so you can background check a 17-year-old and it'll come back with nothing, because even if they have a juvenile record, it doesn't show up on
Okay.
the
Yeah,
background.
it won't show up.
Right.
How about volunteer assistant wrestling coaches? If they're volunteer,
I
do
believe
they?
they are.
Everybody,
Yeah,
Oh,
all of
everyone.
our coaches get, even there's volunteers, they get background
Yeah.
checked.
Okay.
Why'd you have to bring up western language?
Well, that's the only, that
Did
is
you
the
hear
only
what was
sport
said
I
here?
know that has voluntary.
One that'll kick everybody is that trustees do not have to be background checked.
But you're not left unsupervised with kids, are you?
Are we?
I don't know, I've never left you unsupervised with my students.
No, they won't even let me go take my kid's book to his class by myself, I just have to drop it off.
Yeah, they're pretty good at reading the
You
room.
could push that.
No, they won't, they're like, no, we don't let it, you know, we have, it's the same rule for everybody, regardless of who you are.
The only thing I would suggest in item B, I hate redundancy in language. And the first thing says the individual has. And it states that in the opening sentence on there, unless the individual has completed a fingerprint check. And then B, has provided to the department.
So get rid of
That
the individual.
individual has.
Oh,
It is assumed to be for both. But that's a editorial,
Yep.
yes.
got it.
Well, we've gotten
Is
into,
this a yearly thing, or does it,
The background checks?
the fingerprint background checks, how long
It's a
do they
one
last?
time.
We keep, yeah, if you're become a perpetrator during
Like
the
I
course.
had one in 2001 when I was hired,
You're supposed to,
and all the things I've done since then, nobody's bothered to check, but that's how it works.
We want to change that.
We read the paper.
well, yeah, have you
No,
guys?
that's true, that's how it works.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, I know.
But where was the person just recently hired that they were not background checked and then
Harrison.
and then they're now like, they didn't register, so now they're in trouble with their
Big time.
state
Oh, they're
warrants
registered,
or whatever.
Yeah.
The,
It's like the same school situation.
I think the reason it's not done annually is just cost.
Well, even like every 3 years or something like that.
Yeah, no, there's nothing in the rule of law that requires it, and we haven't ever done it. Yeah, you could work for the district 30 years and only do one background check.
So getting back on track on this then, based on the changes that we made or suggested, are there any other corrections, changes, revisions that we'd like to do? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to accept policy 3665 with the proposed changes under first reading.
make that motion.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second?
Second from Stacy. All those in favor, or any questions, comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. So, I'm kind of looking at you, Jen. Are you the one that's tracking this, or, okay, and if we start plowing through this stuff too fast, please let me know.
Got it.
Okay, thanks. Okay, consideration of policy 5122, fingerprints and criminal background investigations. Looks to me like this is a lot of wordsmithing here.
Yeah, I had a couple things to add. I was wondering if we can scratch in line 18, if we can scratch, so it says the following applicants for employment as a condition for employment. I was wondering if we can just say the following individuals will be required as a condition of any offer of employment or volunteer status to authorize in writing name-based blah, 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 because it's inconsistent between employees and volunteers unless we say both. And I don't know that we need applicants for employment when we're talking about volunteers.
So the following individuals will be required
as a condition of any offer of employment or volunteer status to authorize in writing a name-based fingerprint criminal background investigation. And then we list them, certified employee, non-certified employee. And the reason I'm adding volunteer status is after the first 3 bullets, you get to a volunteer assigned to work in the district, including a chaperone who has unsupervised access to students.
I don't think that harms anything.
How does that work for field trips?
If they don't, so most field trips, you don't have unsupervised access to students, because if you're on a bus with 30 kids and the teacher's on there with you, that's the supervised access. So that's generally the litmus test on that is, we have volunteers like, say, a foster grandparent who comes in and reads with kids in the hall, then that's unsupervised access to kids, because, so that person is definitely gonna be background checked.
And we don't want volunteer drive the bus, drive there or something. Here, meet the field trip. people.
Volunteers, right? Did you have
We didn't get to
volunteer
write
rides?
I think it sounded just like it's just you.
It's just me.
Just
They won't let
interested.
me drive the bus, but.
That's because your son was driving the bus, he's like, no, mom,
Yeah.
get off.
His rule, they don't let you on here.
Yeah.
Definitely not sitting behind me.
Or there was too many kids,
That could-
I don't know.
Okay, so I would, based on Dan's recommendations, was that all?
Yep.
Okay, based on Dan's recommendations, and the changes proposed by MTSBA, I would entertain a motion to approve policy 5122 on first reading.
So moved.
Second.
A motion, second by Kristen. Questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by
Oh,
saying
thanks.
no. Motion carries. Okay, consideration of updates, big updates, to policy 2335, enhancement, human sexuality instruction and identity instruction.
This is a new policy. No,
Yeah, it's
it's a
It's like
completely
added
revised
everything,
policy, right? So we're scratching all of our old policy, adding all the new in red underlined. I don't really have comments on it. It's new legislation that we're gonna have to learn to live with. The parts that are gonna provide a little bit of heartburn are on the back page, lines 9 through 12. We provide annual notice on several things every year. I asked Tony this year if MTSBA would please revise a model annual notice document for districts to ensure that we're providing annual notice on all the things that we're supposed to be providing annual notice of. The clincher in here is that, it's not in there, it's about the electronic link, it might be in a different
Line,
policy.
yes, sir.
Number
Line
9.
9,
You were
second
right.
page.
Oh, yeah, the district will provide an electronic link to materials. I'm not sure how easy or difficult that's gonna be to create, but that'll be something that we'll be working on. And a calendar of events and assemblies or instruction. And then the other part is a parental permission, which is lines 19 to 24. And this is part of parental rights legislation. And if you read it, it's requiring that every parent sign off before their child participate in the instruction. Which the hassle with that, and I'm not opposed to parental rights by any stretch. Getting parents to return slips of paper with their signature on it is a challenge when they're authorizing their kid to go on a ski trip, let alone get education about human sexuality. What they're suggesting in here, if I'm reading it right, is that we try to secure that parental permission at the start of the year as part of the annual notice, where the parent either clicks a box or initials or signs off and says, yeah, that's okay. But this goes back to our conversation about suicide prevention screening too. We used to require parents to opt their kids out of suicide prevention screening. Now we require parents to opt their kids into it. and because of changes in state law, and the number of kids that we actually screen has declined significantly because of that. And just because we don't get the permission returned, right? So I can see that being a little bit of an issue, but it's something that we're gonna have to work through. I'm not suggesting any changes to the policy, just making you aware.
Go ahead, Scott.
No, I was just gonna throw it out, does the board have any suggestions or, suggested changes?
So the only thing I guess I have is, you know, all of this, annual notice, this is very prescriptive on how it gets done. And we may not have any flexibility there, but I guess my question was, is could we reference a procedure or some other single type of notice that covers all, and I think you were getting at this with Tony, like, hey, can you build a document that says, here's the way you're gonna notice for all of these things, so that way we have a one-stop shop, because I just foresee that we're in 2335, what about 3110, what about 8500, what about, you know, I mean, all of these different things, and if they're prescriptively different, that's where I really worry, is like, okay, well, you're not meeting board policy here, so we get in trouble. You know, it's when if you do it the same way every time, all the time, it makes it easier to, at least from your side, to track potentially, as well as just implement, cause, oh, well, we just add one more to the list. From a parent perspective, so switching gears a little bit, from a parent perspective, I wouldn't mind, you know, like when you go in and meet your teacher the first time, like having this in that and like, here, please read, sign, get it back.
That's what we're talking about, is in that initial start of school, is gathering that permissions that way. The mechanics of it is the hard part. And if it happens between the parent and the teacher right there in the classroom, that's the best case scenario. I'm afraid it's gonna end up happening as a checkbox on a website in order for us to collate all the information. So we'll have some conversations internally about how we're gonna get that done.
And I'll just let you know this, is that following the legislature this last legislative session, this is a compromise language. Prior to the way this language was even set up, there was going to be a requirement that there would have to be signed parental notice every time there was discussion on this. And I mean, it got to a point where it was just unmanageable. And so I'm a little bit leery about going too far outside of the lines on this, because this is compromise language, but
So I just.
I'm not suggesting we don't do it, we tread very, very lightly.
Well, I don't have a suggestion, so this is kinda like, hey, we got a problem here, not providing a solution, it's just, that's just in general from like a specs or a contract, it's just easier to do the same thing each way, so. I don't know if we have a fix right now, maybe a fix next year when we go look at this again, and maybe that's the thing, to see how it works and tweak it. And see how
Right,
things
well, and
go.
we've had to provide annual notice regarding human sexuality instruction already, and what that looks like is, it happens at these grade levels. So if you don't have a kid in those grades, you don't have to worry about it, but say you got a sixth grader and it's gonna happen in sixth grade, then you need to be aware, and then we do need to get that permission, and that is probably gonna end up being school secretaries calling people or teachers, trying to make sure that they understand what the parents' wishes are.
And if the consent is not signed and returned, will students just get pulled and supervised?
Yeah, it actually says in here they've provided an alternate activity, I think.
Is it registered to accommodate that?
Yeah, we've had to before. It'll be different if it's 50 kids versus 2 or 3, which is kind of how it's been. So, and that's what I'm afraid, if parents just forget to turn it in, that we got a whole bunch of kids that we got to figure out what their activity's going to be.
I'm pretty sure the teachers have become pretty inventive at like making it part of the kids' points.
Yeah.
Like they have to be turned in by that Friday,
Get
right
them
after school starts, or your kid loses whatever points. At least that's what I've done. So we need a handbook for each grade.
It might.
Do the high school handbooks all get turned back? Like the consents for the high school handbooks, do
I
they
believe so,
usually
yeah.
get turned in? So
I think
what
so.
if we had like a middle school handbook that these all have to be signed?
That's what we're talking about, it's just that there's so many different individual topics that I think you gotta get, like, I don't know that you can put suicide prevention training on the same page as human sexuality instruction and say, sign off, mom, because she might be okay with the suicide prevention training, but not the other one, and then So you have to almost provide individual initials or sign-offs for each
What
different
if you
thing.
had to update your Infinite Campus on each kid and under each one there was
That's the angle that we're looking at, I'm just not sure that we can make it work yet. Right.
So, based on our discussion, it doesn't appear like there's any other additional changes to be made, so I would entertain a motion to accept the wholesale revisions of policy 2335, enhanced human sexuality instruction to any instruction, under first reading. So moved. Motion by Tyrell, second. Second by Tiffany. Any additional questions, comments from the board? Any additional questions, comments from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Now on to policy 8560, display of flags and banners on district property.
I don't have any comment.
My only comment is why do we bloody need this thing?
Yeah,
It's not like we're gonna break the law, but I mean, I guess if it's
well, I
an
mean,
easy
the
thing
way
to
it's,
get to.
the way it reads, you could have like a student vehicle,
It
could
can't
have
be
a
on-
flag in it,
Oh,
and like, put my whatever flag, Ukrainian resistance flag, I don't care, whatever.
No, it doesn't, it says you still have the right to have your personal.
No, does it, I didn't see that,
Yes, it
when I
does.
read
Your
it.
personal stuff, it just is anything on
School property,
Property, but
So
the
like-
vehicle itself is not school property.
but it's on school
The
property.
parking lot is.
the restrictions in this
But it's
policy
in
do not
personal.
apply to personal clothing, jewelry, or accessories owned by government, worn by government employees except where uniform policies or official dresses apply. So, I mean, that really doesn't even seem applicable.
So, but the first one says wall, vehicle, other structure, does that imply like a district vehicle or a student vehicle parked
I
on property?
think it's district vehicle.
District property,
Do we need to say district vehicle?
it says,
So
from
it can't
line
get a
8.
general D.
Yeah, I was thinking about the generally, exactly, yeah.
Line
I mean,
eight
that would,
says
under this
district
policy
property
as written,
buildings,
generally would
grounds,
not be
and
permitted on
Yeah,
school.
not permitted.
There's no doubt. You
Although
could,
Not to be
employees of the
construed to
district
limit
can't have
private
them on
speech
their
of
property,
individuals,
correct?
nothing in this
Parked
policy
in-
may be interpreted to restrict expression
parking
of
lots?
personal beliefs outside of official government displays.
Yeah.
This
which is why you might wear,
Yeah,
a
this
flag.
is just the frustration, where it's like regurgitating law in our
Mhm.
policy, but I get it, I also understand that if we don't have it, I mean, you could also say, policy 8560, we will follow MCA, done.
I would prefer that.
A lot of people would, but
Oh, well.
Then it's in there.
To your
Oh, well.
Stephanie's, they're
But
personal.
that one can't or can't?
no, we still have to have it. Somebody's gonna pick that apart and they're gonna say you need to have it in our policy.
Even if it's parked in the.
For what? I mean,
But
that's your,
Or
I'm not
we're in
being.
violation of what the intention of the law is. Is really what
Does
it
the law,
is.
does the law say we have to have policy?
Yeah,
Oh, it does?
yeah.
Oh,
We're required to set policy.
oh, okay, that's what I didn't understand, I was misunderstanding, yeah. I wasn't
I have
trying to be
no,
jerk.
Okay.
I have no edits,
Yeah,
Scott.
yeah, so that was my only question on
So, side conversation, did you have, was there a suggestion?
that. I guess does it apply to employees' vehicles parked in the district lot?
I thought Tristan had just said that, what did you?
No flags or banners may be displayed on district property that represent a political viewpoint, so I would argue under that if it's a personal vehicle on the property, it's just like,
You can't have it, that's kind of
Yeah.
one thing too.
But it says, or controlled by the district, okay.
well, but line 30 is no flags or banners may be displayed on district property. Well, district property, based on definition, means buildings, grounds, so that's tricky, cause it's a personal property, but
It's on district
it's
property.
on district property, but
it's
we
not-
also.
It's not a permanent, it's not a permanent fixture, it's just
Doesn't say
given there
permanent
for
here.
temporary.
Yeah, it does
You're
say
not gonna
permanent.
make people change their cars,
Why not?
because it's personal expression,
Well, you
it's
could
your
not
right
park it
to.
on,
Talking about
I
like-
can have a
like
legal gun
stickers.
that I can't bring on the district property.
Right, but there's certain rule, I mean,
I mean, and we do it all the time, we restrict people
Right.
on district property.
I will tell you that I think line 30 and 31 is where the lawsuit's gonna come from.
Mhm.
And I don't know that it's, whether we agree or disagree with it, I don't know that it's really worth debating too much. Because
Could be.
it's what's in current law.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that the lawsuit would happen here, but I'm sure that somebody's gonna be gunning to
There'll be a test.
So should we put up like
litigation.
Yeah, like the ACLU and the Pacific States Legal Foundation phone numbers right in the parking lot.
There you
If you see these numbers, call.
So
If you see a
individual
flag,
classrooms
call.
are automatic, cause it's a district
That's
property,
district property.
Mm-hmm.
but the gray area comes with.
Your
the
personal property that's
Personal
beyond
property
district
that's not
property.
in the parking lot.
Yeah. And honestly, it's gray between lines 39 and 40, because the policy doesn't apply to personal clothing, jewelry, or accessories worn by government employees, but they don't mention your car.
Right.
Or a student with a giant
Right.
Confederate flag, whatever.
So a teacher could wear a T-shirt with an
That's
appropriate
how I
flag on it,
read
but
it.
not have it on their car.
Right.
parking lot.
Yes.
Makes sense.
That's how
You gotta
I
wear
read
your General League t-shirt. They can't drive it. Yeah. And then it's arguably unconstitutional anyway, so it's, I mean, that's why.
Clarification from them on that,
I can ask.
if they have
I-
more.
mean, line-
Almost like this 3537 is the one that says, nothing in this policy may be construed to limit the private speech of individuals, nothing in this policy may be interpreted to restrict expression of personal belief outside of official government displays.
Displays, right?
100%, but line 35 and 37 are put in there because they think it's gonna make it constitutional. It's not gonna make it, the whole thing's unconstitutional, and somebody else can litigate it. So, we just
So-
pass it.
So I guess my question's going to be, is do we wanna consider this tonight, or do we wanna wait until we get clarification from MTSBA on the way that language is
Can we
written?
approve it on first reading the way it's proposed tonight, and then deal with it either on, so,
If the collective board had no issues with that, but if the board has an issue with passing it at a first reading without having that clarification, then no. So I guess it's based on the will of the board itself.
The whole thing is up for interpretation, so, I mean, what clarification are we gonna get, really?
Yeah, the only clarification I'm looking for is that the parked vehicle
vehicle,
on
yeah.
district property. Cause that's where you're gonna get, I feel like, your most trouble of bumper stickers or, you know, whatever it may be. So now all of a sudden, they can't park in the school parking lot, so they gotta go park on the street.
And you guys are
And
absolutely
that's-
right, like,
That's
in
ridiculous.
it may be ridiculous, but like, I mean, you can wear a bong hits for Jesus, that went to the United States Supreme Court, like, these issues are way bigger than us, that's what it comes
Right.
down to, you know?
But is anybody really gonna look in and be like, they're flying this flag and they're parked in the parking lot? and
I do
they're-
think that could be an issue.
It could.
If somebody's offended, I don't know, maybe we should have that checked on. Clarify.
The problem is, the people that really mattered all went home. And weren't bright enough to
So I'm
figure this
gonna
out to
ask
begin with.
again, is it the collective, desire of the board to pass this under first reading, or do we wanna wait until we get a clarification?
I would pass it first, in my opinion.
I would clarify.
Okay, I think there's enough concern that we'll just pull it from first reading and have it, and we'll table it, and we'll run it out at the, next meeting under first reading.
Sorry, Tara.
No, that's all right, I don't
That's
know
fine.
what edits we'll get.
You
you know.
love policy anyways.
Yours is a way forward and yours is correct, I mean, you're both, everybody's correct.
Clarifying, line 36, restrict expressions of, nothing in this policy may be interpreted to restrict expressions of personal belief outside of official government displays, may be the language that they go back to, because is your car in the parking lot an official government display?
No,
I would say not, but that's, I guess it's worth getting an answer
if
on that.
they take the wheels off and set them on the axles, then I would say yes.
All right.
Then it's representative of government, yeah.
It's government property at that point.
Oh, I thought it was just because it was spinning its wheels like the rest of government.
So, since we're going to table this one, we'll move on to policy 3110, entrance placement transfer. Looks like this is some,
There's a layout.
just,
This one landed in the packet twice, but did you see differences between the two versions, Tyrell? 'Cause
I was
thought they were
just
the same.
looking, as far as to check that, but it is.
So on your agenda, it says 3310, which is student discipline. But in the packet, it's 3110 twice.
Oh, are we missing
We
one?
have a typo.
Well, I don't know.
What's the first page? Let's see.
Yeah, which you have changes in 31.
So in D, you have 3310, but you don't have that in your packet, but it's actually student discipline, which is on the list.
Yeah, 30,
Looks like we're missing one. So House Bill 400 under Tony's notes was, we were recommending amendments to policies 3310 and 5255 which deal with discipline, so it looks like we might be missing.
maybe we don't have 3310.
Well, this one's, mine goes down to 3110.
Right.
But
Which 3110 is consistent with changing the early literacy to the math one as well, or including math.
So I think we can,
Yeah, it's, the 3110 is just
Editorial stuff.
just editorial change. It's to remove or get rid of literacy and make it more general for both math and reading, and that's what you're gonna find in the other ones too.
Yep.
So I would entertain motion to accept the revision on policy 3110.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion from Tyrell, second from
Second.
Stacy. Questions or comments from the board? All those in favor, or questions, comments from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. Okay, motion carries. So then we just need to get clarification whether or not 3310
yeah,
is
I think
actually.
we just missed it altogether, so we'll have to get it.
Well, unless it is a typo
Typo.
on his part, because there was another one down here that was also a typo that they had incorrect.
We'll ask.
Yeah. Okay, policy 5255.
I have no changes.
And this is another one that was pretty well discussed during the legislative session. They were pretty adamant about the way that language.
Thanks
Hmm.
for prescriptive.
Mhm.
Well, it gave us a bunch of things, so I guess,
Yeah. So,
I have no edits.
if there's no any suggestions for edits? Seeing none, then I would entertain a motion to accept policy 5250, for the revisions of policy 5255 on disciplinary action under first reading.
So moved.
Motion by Tyrell, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Stacy. Questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? Yes?
I am notorious for giving my students nicknames that are not derivative of their real name. How much trouble am I gonna get into?
Well, you won't now. That's the great part for you.
Oh, this is saying I won't get in trouble?
Yeah, you can't get in trouble. You call them whatever you want.
Perfect.
As long as it,
I would like to share some of the nicknames just to try and convince you I should continue good to you. I had a student named Selena and I called her Tortellini. It's just a thing. And then I had a student named Logan, I called him Goose, because his brother was Maverick.
Oh, nice.
Both times parents were okay with
I
it.
think you're
just so
good.
you- That's someone comment. Please get that in the
gender
minutes.
neutral exist though. Just go with that.
Okay. That's all.
No, you're
Okay.
shielded.
Seeing no additional comments from the public, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Now, consideration of revisions to policy 3416, administering medicines to students. Also another one that was heavily debated.
I have an
These are
editorial.
like emergency medicines.
Mhm.
Are they, is that?
Yes, they totally are, like asthmatic, allergic reaction. You're gonna want those.
So page 4, line 15, says respiratory distress emergency and shall make. No, just an editorial, so.
Yeah, that's good.
Forgive me, it's for distress, just say it.
Shall is used in line 38 of page 6. Maybe use shall just so it's consistent.
Mhm.
That was my minor.
Good catch.
Okay.
So, not that I wanna add any more onto coaches, but we had an instance at camp where our kid forgot his inhaler, and I mean, he was having a rough go. So seeing the use of emergency albuterol, like in the school, I think is great. Like, how far do you extend that to coaching staff? But then they also have to take training on it.
Right. Yeah, we'd have to work with the nursing staff on that, and the coaches, are they carrying Narcan with them now? Or is that?
Bus drivers are.
Bus drivers are. We don't have albuterol inhalers on our buses, though, not yet.
Cause it's like, I don't
I
wanna
think it's
in the
more for the
med kit.
kids to use themselves though, because the kids have to demonstrate that they know how to use their inhaler, and it's, you wouldn't actually be, they would be using it themselves.
But in
If
order
they
to
can't breathe
carry,
in, you're not gonna get any inhaler in their system.
but in order to carry it, right, you still have to have the training per this policy.
But see, I think that's a poorly written, because as a nurse, I feel like the student is the one with the illness. They've been taught how to use their things. You're just carrying it for them. You shouldn't have to
You're not
know how to use it.
Squeezing it into the.
And that, yeah, that training would be fairly,
Is that something that was they were trying
it's
to
not like
add?
a.
Yeah, where it came in is that if there was an
EpiPen
opportunity or if there was an event where an individual student could not administer themselves, would the individual teacher, coach, et cetera, get into trouble by improperly or not meeting the policy? Some of the legislators came out and said, it really doesn't matter, because at that point, we're talking a life and death type of a
It's marriage
situation,
law.
and so therefore it should be exempted. But that was the basis of a lot of these things, and some of the senators, one senator in particular, and I won't name names, I'd love to, but he went so much as to say, well, we can't trust the schools to make sure that the medication that they have in stock is not expired,
That's the
and how are
student's
we going to force the, are we going to hold the schools liable if they utilize outdated, so that that's the school or the parents? What happens if the student or the parent fail in doing that? Then what happens with, in the case there, this conversation went around and around and around to the point where, it just I got frustrated just listening to them.
This policy is for the school to have stock
Yeah,
Yes.
for applying.
yeah, like
so
general stock on hand.
Not to handle the kids' prescribed
their
or
own.
purchases, so this is for us to have stock.
Well, then you would have to watch your own expiration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Unless
my
you
kid
didn't
was
have it
having
in
an
the first place.
anaphylactic reaction and you gave a
EpiPen
2-year-old
that was expired,
EpiPen,
you'd
which
be all
actually
right
is
with
still
that?
80% effective, I'm glad that you saved their life. So, like,
Isn't there like some law where if you come across an accident and you help and you
Yes,
damage
it's
it,
Samaritan's
does
Law.
that not extend to a teacher in the situation? Did they talk about that?
Yes, they did, yeah.
Scott's
Yes, they
starting to
did.
twitch a little bit.
And,
Yes, that's sad.
the part of the problem lies in that there is a certain level of paranoia on both political sides on how this stuff is being handled. And so they always figure that, well, if the school district has this in stock, they're gonna somehow abuse it, they're gonna apply it incorrectly, and so therefore it's up to the parents to do. Then you've got the other side that says, well, absolutely, the parents are too stupid to do it themselves, we have to have it invested into our school districts, and they've got to be able to administer it. And you've got these two extremes fighting over the same thing. And in the meantime, I think you're 100% right, Tiffany. At the end of the day, if there is a kid that is having an issue, and if there is a school nurse or a teacher that knows how to effectively administer that medication, they're not gonna say, oh God, I can't do anything because I'm not following policy. I'd rather lose my job and tell them to stick it than to do that, so.
We've actually had debates as to whether or not it's legal for a summer school teacher to apply sunscreen to a student without parent permission.
And trust me, it goes beyond suntan lotion too. It's a whole gamut of different things.
Yeah.
So these changes, are they any burden to the school district?
Actually, the nurses will take care of most of this for us, and they're already doing a lot of it. We have glucagon, we have Narcan on campus. I believe we have EpiPens in some of our schools now. The inhalers we haven't had because we'd have to get a doctor to write a general script for the nurse to be able to fill it, to have it without it being for a specific person. This policy authorizes that to happen too, so. Actually, I think they'll be good with it. When I first read it, I was like, oh my God, and then as I was going through it, I was like, we're already doing a lot of this stuff. And our nurses do a great job of keeping track of our kids and the medication that's on hand at each school.
And a lot of it too, the board permits the administration of medication. So a lot of this is compromise language that finally got, ironed out after extensive debate.
Slugging fest?
I kinda like opioid antagonist instead of Narcan. I'm an opioid antagonist.
Yeah, you are.
We just say Narcan. Do we already report to the public health if there's something that happens? Because line 16 says, the district will document the use of stock albuterol following the event and report this to the Department of Public Health.
If stock albuterol was used, then yeah, they would have to. If a student's own inhaler was used, then no.
Then you don't have to.
No.
Okay, so I would entertain the approval under first reading of policy, the changes of policy 3416.
I'll make,
Edited, sorry.
As edited, as changed. Did we make changes?
Yeah,
Just
the one editorial.
Oh, okay,
Shall,
yeah,
shall.
yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion from Martin, second?
Second.
Second from Tyrell. Additional questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public?
I don't give any medication, that's my comment.
Regardless of what his name
Jelly
is.
beans,
If they
Skittles.
need it or not, no, just kidding, if they need it.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. We now have, this is another one of those literacy type comments.
Simple.
This is consideration of policy 2158, parent and family engagement and educational involvement, just changing or taking the word out, taking literacy out, so it includes a broader range of topics.
Cool, I'd make a motion, we accept it as edited.
Thank you.
Second?
Second from Tyrell. Questions, comments from the board? Questions, comments from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Consideration of policy 2165, early targeted intervention. Again, this is very similar to what we've talked about or there as far as poem literacy and putting in reading and math for top position.
I have a couple, just questions.
Yeah.
We get into page 2.
Yep.
Line 17, it says select option.
Yep.
I don't know if that's the editorial that needs to be pulled out.
Yeah, all three of these have been incorporated into our existing policies, so they're currently in there. This is just what was provided by MTS.
So you're talking about the full-time versus half-time?
No, I'm talking about specifically, line 17 says the Board of Trustees has established a parentheses, select option in parentheses in black.
Yeah.
So is that in our current policy? Maybe we should just edit that out.
Yeah, so I think the option we're supposed to select is full-time versus half-time, and it's already been selected in our current policy, but I can't tell you which one it is, so we'll have to just fix that.
Okay, so in second reading, you'll have. Yes.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I think that was, yeah, that was all I had on that one.
Was anybody else confused by the bottom of page 2, line 47, and the top of page 3, 1 and 2 about the resident versus non-resident? How I read this is if a Jump Start kid comes to our district from another district, an out-of-district attendance agreement is not required.
That's
Is that how you're reading it?
So the tuition laws under 25, 320, and 324, is that the funding that you've got to, the billing that you've got to send to the sending district?
I think so, I did not look up the code on it, but just what it says is an eligible child participating in a Jump Start program provided by a district other than the child's resident district does not require an out-of-district attendance agreement. We already approved 4-year-olds here like we were supposed to, or we thought we were, and this policy says for 4-year-olds, you don't have to have an attendance agreement, which I'm reading that like anybody could bring their kids to our Jump Start program.
That's just the summer program. The Jump Start is just our summer
Thank you.
school. Yeah,
I was thinking
which we don't accept
early
on.
K, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Which makes sense for not complicating the billing either in our summer program.
Yep. Okay.
They have to be district, or they have to be in the district anyway, I mean, a student of the district.
So, I would entertain a motion for approval of 2165 under first reading, the revisions, 2165 under first reading.
So moved.
Motion by Tyrell, second.
Second.
Second from Tiffany. Questions, comments from the board? Second, questions, comments from the public? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Consideration of policy 3110.
We already looked at this.
Say to Mary.
Yeah, that's the one we were. Thank you. Policy 3121. Enrollment and attendance records. This is another one of those that's pulling that, and then there's a addition to the 1/4 enrollment for student.
And make a motion to accept policy 3121 as amended.
Second?
Okay, motion and a second. Questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Consideration of policy 3650. Looks to me like they just added definitions for the K-12. I don't really know what the purpose of this really was. Really don't. I read it too.
I'd make a motion to accept policy 3650 as written.
Okay, we have a second, or I mean, motion and a second. Questions or comments from the board? Besides, what the hell is it for? Sorry, did I say that out loud? Questions or comments from the public? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Consideration of new policy 5123, employer verification of employee.
Seems pretty logical.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question on like definitions here, just like practice. So my question here is hiring at the point of starting or the point in which the board approves hiring at the next board? Like for instance, don't we have people that start and then we get the list coming later, or is it the list has gotta come to the board first and then they technically start? I'm just procedurally questioning.
So we try to wait to start anybody until the board has had a chance to act. We do not issue contracts to contract employees until the board has had a chance to act.
Right.
And that was a practice that we cleaned up about 3 years ago after sitting in a section at MCEL and having them tell us that if you issue a contract to somebody and the board decides not to hire them, you got a big problem on your hands. Because before that, that was kind of our practice. With hourly staff, like say a custodian, that once they get through all the hurdles and they're ready to start work, and we're desperate for help and the board hasn't had a chance to meet yet, occasionally we'll start people in those situations, let them get started. Because if the board were to not hire that person, they'd still be probationary and we could simply tell them, sorry, the board decided not to hire you.
So that's my question is when's the hiring part so that these 3 business days are defined?
So officially, when the board acts, that's when the individual is officially hired in my book. Legally, that's the law.
Check their citizenship when you do their
Because
paperwork.
this should be a prerequisite to employment. Is it not?
Right.
Yes.
They can't start working for us after, if that's what we do the first 3 days. That you're on.
I know.
So that was my question, is just like that timeline. I don't have any issues with the, I mean, really that we gotta do this is one thing, but
Does this, Jill, in your mind, does this change anything from what we're already doing?
So, by law, you have to have the I-9, which is the one that verifies their
But we don't ever
document.
wait like months and months to get that from somebody.
No, you have to have it within
Like, they
the
don't
third day of
start work,
employment,
right,
and
okay.
so they don't start unless they bring that in, or they're not.
So it's exactly the
supposed
same as what it says.
Right.
to. Yeah, pretty much.
So you've already been doing it.
We've pretty much already been doing it, yep,
And just making sure the timelines we put in our policy are
yeah.
appropriate and defined, because business day versus calendar day, you say 3 days, well.
It's
Yeah.
third day of employment, so it is
Yeah,
business
it
day.
does say business day here,
Yeah.
just the example is,
Yeah.
I've seen some big changeovers on calendar versus business day.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah, I have no.
I would consider approval of new policy 5123.
So moved?
Motion, do I have a second?
A second.
Second from Martin. Questions, comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Consideration of changes to policy 2050. This is, Jill's left, so, but this is really directed, a lot of it to, students that are outside of our walls doing some off-site instructional work. It allows us to be able to be calculating the A and B and allow them to be able to stay off-site.
3141?
2050.
2050.
2050.
They skip it.
No?
I'd make a motion to accept policy 2050.
Where's 2050?
Right above 3141.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, second.
Second from Stacy. Questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Okay, now move on to consideration of changes to policy 3141.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah,
Postpone this one to next month.
and the rationale?
There's we didn't get a chance to reconcile this version that you got with our currently adopted version.
That's what I was gonna mention.
So there's a ton of editorial stuff that we had changed already that I think we could clean up in here to make it a little easier.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, because we have like our preferential standards
Yep.
as far as employees that negotiate and stuff, that,
Yeah, I missed this one, and then this afternoon when I was going through them again, I was like, oh no, this is not what we already have. And I just think it would be better if Jen and I took another whack at this one for next month.
I love that idea.
well, and, Dan, I guess I had just a point of clarification.
Go ahead.
And maybe we can delay this as well, but I was gonna ask you, like, under transportation, what does all this really mean? I tried to read through it, so, yeah, I'm not, I think right now, good, but.
I'm gonna have to attend a class at MCEL to find out what it means. I read through it 3 times on Friday and a couple times again today, and it's a little bit beyond me. And this is where it really diverges from our current policy. And it has to do, if I'm reading it right, it really muddies the water on transportation and basically says we can do it. Like, if we have a Helena kid coming here, how I'm reading this is we could run a bus in there and pick them up, and it doesn't even, right now under state law, we have to get permission from Helena to run our bus into their district, and this says, go get them. It's discretionary. Is that how you read it?
Well, I was reading that, but I've always wondered, like, that whole state law about running buses in other districts, because I see Helena School District 1 buses running around. I don't think we've given that permission here recently.
Where they're
picking up our kids is what it looks like.
Their former transportation director always called.
Okay.
And especially if they had homeless kids, they would call and say, you know, we're picking up a kid, you know, on Clinton Street in East Helena. Since he left, we're not getting those calls anymore. So if you're seeing it, we need to ask about it.
Well, I just remember previously, years ago, having board action to approve that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not misremembering, it's just,
No.
I haven't seen it, so it's like, well, they must not be picking up kids in here, but then here comes Laidlaw or First Students Bus, around, it's like, that ain't ours.
Right. So no, I would like a little bit of time to take a whack at that, and I could ask for some clarification on this transportation section too, because it's a bugger.
I'll make a motion to table it.
Second.
Motion to table, second from Tiffany. Any questions, comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to table, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Consideration of new policy 5252.
This was legislation, and basically what it's saying is when we non-renew a teacher, or if we non-renew a non-tenured teacher in the spring, we now have to specify if that non-renewal is for a financial reason, like budget restriction, or not. That's all we're supposed to, and
It's without cause, but
It's
the
always
cause is
without cause,
financial
right.
reason, so.
And I think that's adding clarity for the sake of the teacher, knowing that
Yeah.
the cause is we can't afford it, rather than the cause is we can't talk about it. So,
And do we normally do it before June 1st?
always, yeah, it's
Okay.
always been state law.
Okay.
So, my question on that date,
Yeah,
what are our options if post-June 1, like our current state of title funding? Will that not allow a reduction in force due to funding after, like today, if we were talking about in August and we get to that point, and I'm not saying we're there, but we have it, you know what I mean?
yeah, I think we may find out the answer to that here really shortly. My understanding is, well, right, if the federal funding is not reinstated, you're gonna have districts who are gonna wanna lay people off before school starts.
Well, by June 1st, we're past that.
Right, state law has always been, if you don't non-renew a teacher by June 1st, that teacher is automatically renewed and has a contract for next year. So, I'm not saying that we're gonna find out about it locally, but I think somewhere in Montana, there's gonna be a district that says, hey, we can't afford this person, and we've gotta lay them off. And I've never heard of that happening.
Okay, so
Ever.
it's an issue,
Yeah,
but I'm not proposing change, I guess I'm just trying to realize what that means. So then my question is based on this, I almost don't even wanna ask this, but I'm gonna. Because of this, do we need to talk to the unions about this policy? Because is it changing anything for bargaining agreements?
no,
Okay.
this is it's all state law.
Okay.
And it always has been. If we're non-renewing somebody, we're talking to the union anyway.
Okay.
And the union's gonna remind us, hey, if this is because of a budget restraint and it's financial, you have to declare that, and we would put it right in the board packet.
Okay. Thank you for
Yep.
those clarifications, thanks.
So entertain a motion to accept policy 5252.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Tristan.
Tyler, sorry.
Questions or comments? Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. Okay, revision to policy 8301, school safety.
The optional section on line 27, I'm comfortable keeping that, but I would like to change the word will to may. The plan may include installation of temporary door lock devices that may be used to secure a door to a room. We don't have those right now, but we may want to add them at some point in the future as part of our safety preparedness. And basically what they look like is like in a hotel room, like where you have the little thing that you can flip out so nobody can open the door. That's, I think, what they're talking
You're not
about.
allowed to have that according to this policy, it can't be in place like that. at least that's the way I read, is,
The plan may include installation of a
Part
temporary.
E, so page 2, line 1, is not permanently mounted at the door assembly, although individual parts of the device assembly or the device assembly, including but not limited.
See, I don't know what they're
to-
talking about.
So there's devices that you can, I've seen them where you can either put them underneath and they engage from the front and hold the door shut and they hold against the door jamb, so it's really quick, just shove it under and you
Okay.
kinda actuate it, so it will physically lock the door through a means of other than a bolting or any other kind of mechanism, or there's also ones that, you know, it's, the bolts and the devices are attached to the door and the wall, and you just drop a bar in or something of that
Right,
nature, so
horseshoe.
that there's a, yeah, a horseshoe type deal where, so it's not permanently fixed, but like on the back of
I
your
see.
hotel room, because you can just flip it.
Yeah.
Teacher walks out the door, kid flips the
Flip it,
button,
right.
oh boy.
Okay. No, I'm gonna need some education on that part of it then, because that's.
And
what
there
I read
has
through it
been,
as,
I think there's been grants and stuff that schools
Help
have gotten,
purchase
or,
those.
you know, that been gifts given to schools to say, here you go, to, here's 100 of them or something like that. I like the idea of being able to do this,
Yeah.
so.
Well, I would make a motion to approve policy 8301 with the addition of the plan may, as amended with the plan may, as opposed to the plan will.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah, second from Tristan. Questions or comments from the board?
One comment. Sorry, editorial, page 2, line 28, it just has the optional in bold. Just have to capture that, so.
I think that's probably correct in the existing policy,
Yeah.
but we'll just verify.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, we'll check it.
Making sure.
Questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. This is one that I thought was a typo as far as the call out goes, but it's consideration of new policy 2334. In Tony's comments on that, it said 3224.
Yeah, he transposed it.
Okay, so it is policy 2334?
Yep.
Okay,
Jen was the one who caught him on that.
Good job, Jen.
here you go.
So on line 6
Yeah, we have to designate
hours per week.
what we're gonna allow.
I'd be very, the optional portion, personally, I would not wanna be the one that was evaluating it through secular means, criteria to determine whether or not they're religious instruction credit. I personally would say you don't get credit for it if you don't take outside religious instruction. Only because it's awkward, the evaluation. Puts people in an
Yeah, the
awkward
way,
situation.
the way the bill originally was proposed, it was going to be required that school districts provide credit for religious instruction. And so as compromise, they allowed the school districts to go ahead and make that. So you were asking the question before we even started this. This is one of those deals where a school district could say, no, we're not gonna do this.
I asked a friend's grandfather once why he would major in religious studies when he was a wheat farmer, and he was like, I was working at night, and I was in the National Guard, and I was shoveling coal in the creamery. Priests weren't gonna fail anybody. That's what he told me. So, you could put secular criteria to that if you like, but I'm just saying.
I don't know, I went to Carroll, it would fail you.
That was for religious studies though.
That's not true.
So, I guess we have to decide then whether or not, how many hours we're talking about that we would allow, and then whether or not we want to include the optional language.
Does the number of hours include transportation back and forth? So if they're gone for 2 hours?
It's the release.
Release,
Yep.
the total release time.
That's how I would interpret it, yeah.
Yes.
Have you ever had anyone that you're aware of request this?
No. But it hasn't been a law, I don't know.
Catechism's after school, isn't it?
before.
Mormons used to have, well, where I went to school, there was like a 2-hour, they could do one and stuff in the, I don't know what.
Wednesday
seminary?
mornings
No,
at
they called it
6 a.m.
something.
Temple,
Yeah,
temple.
No, it wasn't called temple, it was, but it was like, I can't
Mormon
remember what
boys.
it's called. But anyways, they would choose to go early
Yeah, and that's been my experience, is most churches, if they're doing religious instruction, it's either in the evenings or weekends, or some churches in the mornings before school.
The Buddhists, like, the kids become a monk for like a month.
So then they just disappear for a
That'd
month?
be 35 hours.
Yeah,
per
you gotta
week.
stay at
So, Dan, do you have a good hour?
the, it's just information.
Like, are we talking, I mean, like,
Maybe no
a
more
stab in
than
the
five?
cart would be like 2, is like,
Yeah,
is like,
So, I'm gonna go ahead and just offer some things here, and I'm not necessarily making a recommendation, this is one the board can go ahead and wrestle with. The period of hours per week, I taught confirmation for at least 6 years at our church. It was about 2 hours on Wednesday night, so that was 2 hours per week. I think if we set it at 5, that's pretty generous. Because I can imagine situations where a church may want to structure a class that the kids come to every day. But right now, that's not really a practice in most churches. The whole thing about awarding credit, we're talking about elective high school credit. We give credit to kids for photography, for ceramics. I can't see that it's worth getting really caught up in, well, we don't want to give credit to a kid for going to a class at his church. It's elective credit. It's not, these aren't required credits. It's gonna count towards his total, or her total number of credits that she's gonna earn. So to me, it's not really that big of a deal. I think there's a policy later that talks about how many minutes of instruction they have to
Yeah.
attend, but that was that for something else, or was that related to
yeah, it was like 8,100 minutes.
Yeah, which is the typical standard. So I mean, really, if a kid goes for an hour a week, that's 60 minutes times 36 weeks.
Seeking
We're not gonna hit
earthly
8,100 minutes.
reward of credit.
Right, yeah, so you might get a tenth of a
Eternal
credit.
salvation.
It's a non-issue.
It's not like that.
It doesn't even count.
I thought it was just, if they take school time off, you don't deduct.
Right.
And
Well,
you just
so
give them credit.
they would be, so theoretically, they'd be penalized because they weren't taking a class during that time. And so this is saying, well, you can award them credit during that. In our high school, our kids have plenty of credits, so it's not like they're gonna be credit deficient if they take time off to go to religious instruction. Honestly, if a high school student was so motivated that he wanted to be at his church for a set number of hours a week, that's a pretty earnest young person in my book, and probably deserves to get some credit for that. So I don't have an issue with the credit thing. I do agree that it could be like an onerous burden on counseling staff to have to calculate how much credit the child's gonna receive. But I also don't think you're gonna have hundreds of kids taking advantage of this option.
Well, that in effect, how will we evaluate the course based on secular criteria?
Good luck.
Well, that's gonna have to be
Well,
proposed.
You need to genuflect
Like
lower.
I think I guess how I would interpret that, I would look at the rigor, okay, if I had to. And we've had to do similar things. Trying to think, Brian went through a whole thing with a homeschool family. And had to examine a bunch of the curriculum, and it wasn't related to religious instruction, but we've done similar things. And again, I don't think we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of kids.
Probably not, right?
What do you do for work study? I know it's a little different, but what do you do for work?
Similar, we look at the amount of time the student's spending at the work site, and then that's how we determine the amount of credit that they're gonna get.
And how do you determine what work site is sufficient?
Well, there's some guidance through OPI as to what qualifies as work-based learning. And so that's where you really end up trying to, sometimes you have to stretch a little bit to determine that this learning is work-based, or that they're actually learning something. And that's part of what we're hoping Jill is gonna help us beef that up to make it more meaningful for kids, so yeah.
Not me, Joe.
No.
Oh, you got a new role.
No, the Jill that's
The
here
Jill.
tonight, yeah.
No.
I was like, no.
So, if we're gonna put out a number of hours, what I would suggest is that we write in there for a period of no more than 5 hours per week if it's overused. You do need that minimum 1 week or 1 hour per week, and so that way we limit it, so that a kid's not going full-time to religious study on that. If we are providing credit, I don't like the idea of providing credit on a personal level. That's just one board member's opinion. What I look at in terms of that, when we don't have control over the criteria or being able to establish the criteria providing that, I have visions of, okay, extreme example. I am taking religious class for the Church of Satan, and I am being taught how to burn cats and do whatever it amounts to on it. And then are we willing as a district or as a community to provide board credit on that? Will our community accept that as a reasonable use of public school time on it? And so, but it's one of those things where if you crack the door open, then you open it up completely. So we need to be able to be willing to accept all phases of it, and then the district is gonna be responsible for determining whether or not that meets that requirement. That's why I'm a little bit hesitant about awarding credit. If they decide to do it, if a parent decides to pull their kid out, we won't penalize them, it won't be in an unexcused absence. But we're still allowing them to, we're allowing them to do it, but we're not going to give the credit, one man's opinion.
I wouldn't even let them leave school to do that, personally. I mean, that's really.
That's a really good point to bring up though, as far as what kind of position we could be put in. So, I'd be more willing to remove the optional. Just put lines 3 or 4 through 9 in.
Sounds like somebody's got a motion.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept policy 2334 with up to 4 hours per week and not include the option for credit.
I'll second. How many hours did you say?
4.
Okay.
Okay, no more than 4 hours per week. Okay, the option. Motion by Tyrell, seconded by Tristan. Additional questions, comments from the board?
Thank you, Tyrell.
Questions, comments from the public?
Are you leaving in the thing that says, note, must be at least 1 hour per week?
No, we're gonna take that.
Yeah.
So then don't you need to say between 1 and 4 hours per week? So that-
No, as long as we're.
Oh, it can be 30 minutes a week?
Oh, yeah, I see
No
what she's
more
going
than
with
4
that.
hours a week.
Right, but could I,
Okay, I
can
make
we
a
leave for 30 minutes a
yeah,
week?
I'll accept that as a friendly
1 to
amendment.
4 hours.
I gotcha.
So,
Up to 4 hours.
1 to 4 hours.
Minimum of
4
1,
hours, yeah.
maximum of
Because you
4.
have to have the minimum, right?
Yeah, you have to have the minimum, so if they're gonna go, they gotta be gone for an hour.
Yeah,
Minimum of 1, plus 4.
Oh, I misread that.
yeah. Right.
So, I guess would that be easier as a substitute motion?
Yeah.
So I'll make that substitute motion. Tristan, you good with that?
Yeah, yep, second.
Okay, so ready to go.
We have a substitute motion to accept policy 2334 with the verbiage 1 to 4 hours per week without the option.
Got it.
Questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, but no. Motion carries.
What about lines 18 through 22?
Those were not included,
Those
that's
were not
all part of
included,
the
it's all part
option. So, the lines basically 4 through 9, and then the, below 23.
Okay, consideration of additions to policy 2600, work-based learning programs.
Here's your 8100 minutes, Ben.
Yep. I see it.
Page 2, line 8, we are going to need to establish the
Date.
deadline.
Okay.
Page 2, line 8. To be eligible to receive credits for graduation, an applicant should be received by the district on an annual basis prior to.
Does it go by semesters? Is that how you guys
Yes.
normally work it?
Yeah, But I think you can set one date a year to award the credits, and I would
Okay.
suggest April 30th or May 1st, so it's a month before graduation, so that we have some time to consider that. I didn't really understand the background behind this.
The whole
Yeah.
change, or,
Like, are they gonna be teachers or?
We're gonna outsource our childcare to our own children, it's like a snake eating its tail.
We already have kids working in school age programs getting credit.
Well, we're ahead of the curve.
I guess we are.
yeah, I think that's what it amounts to. And some of it too is that these, this item is specific to care facilities, childcare facilities, things of that nature, where I don't think the other previous programs actually made that distinction.
And they didn't give work-based learning credit.
And so they added that to
Okay.
it. To me, it seems a little silly to start.
It's just so specific.
Then they start, and then they have to, well, then the next time they've gotta pass another.
Right.
Yeah.
So on line 19, on the last page,
Yeah. School age
can
program.
they receive credit for doing summer school basically? Or not summer school, but
This says they could.
are we okay with that?
Honestly, yeah, I mean, we don't have any students working in summer school now.
If they want summer school.
But we have had a lot of students working in our own schools. I don't know that we have any kids working in daycares right now.
And is it just summer school or is it any type of daycare setting in the summer?
School age program means a program serving children 5 years old. That could be about anywhere, like so Exploration Works.
Well, line 12 is childcare facility, which means a daycare center, so they've covered that as well, it is both.
Yep.
Just
So in
under
other
different.
in other work studies, are we only allowing it during school?
So far, we have, yeah. There's no reason you couldn't expand that, other than we don't have staff working during the summer to monitor it right now.
So is this optional or is this required to keep it as summer?
I guess I read it as it was part of the law, so that,
Yeah, it's a definition.
yeah.
Okay.
So we'll probably have to start considering that.
Are we going with April 30th or May 1? Did you, I mean, 6-1, half dozen the other, but I'm just being nitpicky. You can, I would not suggest using the gavel on
It's about
The air gun.
April 30th?
April 30th, thank you.
You said both dates, so.
Are you making the motion?
I will make a motion to accept, 2600 as edited.
Second.
With the date of April 30th?
Yeah, that includes the edit.
Got it, okay. Second by Tristan, questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public?
On line 19 on page 2, school age was for 5-year-olds and older. Would you consider making it 4-year-olds and older so they could get work study credit for pre-K?
Is that included in some of the smaller ages above?
I don't know if that's in the law. Well, in a childcare facility, if they're under 4.
Family daycare.
But we're not a
licensed
childcare facility,
registered.
right? We're a public school.
Childcare facility means daycare center, group daycare home, family daycare home, licensed, registered under the provisions. The school age program means programs, I think those definitions are in the law. That's, without looking it up, I don't know.
I would be, if they would, typically they would not include that unless it was by a definition.
You could add.
So you can't get work study for doing pre-K.
We could.
I don't know why we couldn't.
There's nothing here that says we couldn't do it.
It just says we will.
Isn't that
For
considered a
5-year-olds.
school age program?
But it's defined
No,
here
but it
as
defines as
5.
5 years
That's
old.
the problem with the definition. So, I don't think there's any amendment to that.
Oh, sorry.
And I think maybe some of that has to do with that the state doesn't fund pre-K as a general universal pre-K, preschool,
Right.
universal preschool.
We do jumpstart kids, we do
That's an exception though, isn't it?
There, I don't know if the 4-year-olds who come, because we do one pre-K class in summer school, right?
You have 2 this year now. You have the kids coming into kindergarten and you have the ones that are, well, two classes of pre-Ks,
Yeah,
really.
but I don't know if we get jump start funding for them. We've just always done those.
I think you do.
I don't know, it's the first year, so.
I guess you didn't identify, well, you did with a dial, I don't know, sorry.
I'll ask Gus.
So under the first parts of 2,600, I think it's still allowed. I mean,
Okay.
you just gotta go
Yeah.
through the, like. if
Yeah, it
you're
doesn't say
going to
you
work
can't
for a
do it.
Mechanic shop.
It just says you will do it.
Sure.
And so that, I guess that's how I read it.
Okay. I'm trying to get some students to come work in my classroom. this
Yeah,
year.
Yeah. Any additional questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Consideration of 2100 school calendar and day.
This is just legislation.
Yeah, this was another one of those bills
I
that
was disappointed that Loyalty Day was not on here because he's telling them we've been celebrating Loyalty Day since Mark Deal was a little boy. May 1st. Yeah, Juneteenth's not on there.
That might come back later, so.
I just was interested to find out about Saturday school. Oh, God, use
Yeah,
that on my
Saturday.
kids.
I had to go to Saturday school when I was in high school. What? Because the teachers struck for so long that we had to go to Saturday school.
Oh, wow.
Something.
Then they just forgave it all.
They what?
They like forgave it.
No, we had to go to school on Saturdays because the teachers strike went
Make
on
up your
for
days.
2 weeks.
That's citizenship day, who's ever heard that?
I have no edits on this one.
Okay.
Pioneer Day?
Students' attendance as well.
Any questions or any additional or any comments on this? Entertaining a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve 2,100 as presented.
Okay.
Second.
Second from Tiffany. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Sorry if I jumped the gun.
Nope. Policy 2450, Indian education for all. Most of this is just cleanup language.
Yeah.
I do have a comment though on this one, and this was a point of concern by districts, several districts across the state, me included, is that in line 11, working in consultation with Montana tribes in close proximity to the district when developing course of study. I kind of resented this. This was done actually by another one of the senators that demanded that that was in there. And then the question came up, is that, okay, which tribe are you going to follow?
Proximity, right, yeah.
And you're a place like, or in Eleanor, Lewis and Clark County, you know, is the nearest reservation Salish Kootenai, is it the Chippewa at Great Falls, or the Little Shell at Great Falls, excuse me, or, you know, some other, and how is that decided? And I thought it was pretty restrictive on it, but I guess.
Just in Montana tribes.
I don't know if there's something we choose or if we're far enough away where we can just say, you know, in the spirit of the policy, we are deciding to embrace all tribes across the board.
It's always been a little vague, especially for us because of our geographic location. And
We got all the flags.
Yeah, we do the best we can. And I would say that having followed Indian Ed for All from its inception, that's been one of the issues that teachers get the most concerned about is, do we teach this culture or that culture because they're not all the same and some have different ideas. If you are in close proximity to a specific tribe, it makes sense to work with that tribal council and those elders because your kids are most often probably interacting with kids from that location. For us, I think it's better if we keep it a little more general. and that's what we've done.
I think if we show good faith effort, I don't think anybody's gonna necessarily pick on East Helena schools. But like I said, I've seen, part of it was language, education.
Right.
And which language, if you've got a reservation that has 4 or 5 different Indian nations that are in that, which language do you pick, or do you have to take all 5 of them?
Right.
There's no way we can teach 5 different languages. So, anyway, that was just my little peeve of the moment. So I would entertain approval of the revisions to policy 2450. Motion's, do I have a second? Second. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carries. And then we go to the final one, which is a review of policy 2150, suicide awareness and prevention.
What do we do now? Is this gonna be a change or not?
No, we're doing, we're doing these things now. The 1 hour at a minimum per year will be accomplished through early release. I'm not sure in the past that we've done it every year during an early release. This year, we're gonna have to spend at least an hour of early release on that topic. It's actually, it's not a problem. It just sets a more firm benchmark.
So on line 17, middle where we struck out all new employees, did we strike that out because we're now doing it on an annual basis?
That's my best guess. This is one that I'd have to go back and compare to what we currently have in policy to make sure that that's even consistent, and that's what we'll have to do before we bring it back. But yes, that's how I would interpret it.
So it's
Stacy, you're right.
Well, because now it's every year.
Right.
So you get it already.
It's every 3.
No, it's every 3, it's 1 hour, so on an annual basis, you provide information saying that you provided 1 hour of youth suicide awareness
Every
prevention
3
training
years,
every
So can
3
we
years.
keep that all new employees who work directly with students enrolled in the school district be provided 2 hours of training the first year of employment? Cause if you just
Right.
got done with that.
They can work here 2 years
They
and
can
not
work here
get
for
trained.
3 years and not get trained.
So you could say on.
Oh, so you have to offer it annually, but you only have to take it once every 3 years?
Or even if
It
it's
used to be
just
5
1
years.
hour, because we're offering 1 hour of youth up above on 9.
Okay, here's how I read 8 and 9. At a minimum, each employee who works for the district, the students must receive 1 hour of suicide awareness and prevention training every 3 years.
Yeah.
So like Kate said, as long as we do it every 3 years for everybody, we're covering everybody. So not every year, Martin. Is that how you were reading it?
No.
Except for the
Why
first
would it
line
say, why would it
says-
say on an annual basis?
On an annual basis, professional development on youth suicide awareness prevention to each employee of the district who works directly. But what she was
Good
saying was
question.
is that you have to just make sure that you get it once every 3 years, but you
Yeah.
have to provide it every year.
It's like your
The district's
CPR
providing
training.
it every year, but the teacher has to take it once every 3 years.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're,
But can we
have
keep-
So you have to give them opportunity to do it every year.
So I'm asking, can we keep the new employee language, even if we knock it down to the 1 hour of training?
Yeah,
To
let's-
mark what's up above.
let's do that and change it to 1 so that they can,
All no.
Join that training.
In the first year, oh, yeah.
Do you what?
I make a motion as revised,
Okay,
policy 2150.
Good job.
okay, got a motion, do I have a second?
Second,
Second. Questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the board?
Question,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm trying to type.
You're so close.
So lines 11 through 14, just to make sure I understand, because I'm trying to read this and it doesn't read very nicely. OPI provides and approves the training? Am I reading that correctly?
I think there's a list of approved trainings that they have available. So youth mental health first aid, SOS, those are just 2 of the trainings that we provide that are on their approved list.
So this just reads really weird then for that. The training materials will be approved by the Office of Public Instruction, comma, meet the standards for professional development in the state, comma, and be periodically reviewed by a qualified person or committee for consistency with generally accepted principles. Who's doing the evaluation? Like, is this a third party? Is that us? Like, are we evaluating OPI's provided material? I mean, it's kinda like, hey, Mr. Contractor, you put up the stuff I bought, but you need to make sure it meets the standards of the building code.
That's a question I would have to ask somebody.
I don't know, I mean, it just reads rough enough
Right.
that there's a lot of room for ambiguity and, I don't know, I mean, if it doesn't matter, fine, but it rubs me the wrong way.
It's,
Well, can't you assume that if the OPI is approving it, it has been reviewed by a qualified person or committee?
I would assume that, but where the
You can't
commas,
assume that.
but where the commas are at, it
Right.
doesn't read like,
very clean.
yeah. I hate to say to get into the commas, but literally it's,
Yeah.
I don't know who's doing the, it looks like the qualified person would be a third party.
Yeah, it
Is
looks
that
like-
us or is that,
It doesn't specify.
no, it doesn't. So, not that I wanna change anything right now, maybe that's
Well,
clarification, but.
and it's like us putting something in policy that we're requiring OPI to do.
Right, I mean, we
Which
have
we
no
don't
control over
control,
that. Yeah, so,
No, I get it.
Can I just point out how many principals, administrators miraculously won the lottery tonight and managed to roll the dice and not be here? What a night that was. It's incredible.
well, I don't think we're done yet.
I was like, where's Sean? Sean,
We still have to
you
vote on
gambled
this
and
one.
lost coming tonight. I was
Okay,
like,
are there any additional comments or changes?
There's a lot more stuff.
Okay, then, any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, approval of policy, the changes to policy 2150. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries.
I apologize, I thought we had already done that. When I was commenting, I was looking over at Sean, I was like, oh my God, man. You're good.
I'm all about this place.
Yes, we did. That was.
July,
number one on the
August?
business.
It's in my blood. I'm all about this.
And we go to 7.
Okay,
Union rabble rousers getting them credit.
next item on the agenda is, oh, by the way, it just appears to me that all those were written under first reading, and I've got 3. We've got 3141, 8560 that we pulled, and we need clarification on whether or not policy 3310
Yep.
needs to, that's what we're reading.
That's what I got.
We'll follow that up into the second reading of those other ones and go from there. Okay, we'll now move on to our consideration of the service agreement with Aware.
Okay, this is just a renewal of the agreement that we approved with them annually. Aware provides home support services, which is just a different acronym and a slightly different program for CSCT, which is a school-based mental health program to support students. They service students in our buildings at Eastgate and Prickly Pear. They have one team split between those two buildings. And then this agreement will also cover them serving students at East Helena High School. And that's a team that they're still working to get established. I did meet with Heather Remington on Friday from Aware, talked with her a little bit about the program. She does have some staff members that she's hoping to interview and get under contract to work at the high school and get that program stood up. I did express our frustration that it's not more active right now and serving more students. And she said she's working on it. I guess is the best explanation that I got. We have similar agreements in place with Intermountain Children's Home to serve students at Radley and East Valley Middle School.
Okay, for the board this evening, we have the agreement with Aware for the home support services. And I would entertain a motion to approve said agreement.
So moved.
Have a motion, to have a second?
Second.
Second from Mark. Any questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion carries. Okay, moving on to item number 3. Three, was the MTSB bylaws, resolutions, officers review and consideration. Like I said earlier in the meeting, is that we do not have those available at this time, so we will table this, or we'll have to table this, and follow through with it at our next available board meeting. Okay, moving forward, we've got item number 4, which is our Head Start lease consideration.
And last year, or maybe it was the year before, we moved to change the Head Start lease from a 2-year lease to a 1-year lease, which is maybe the reason that I forgot to bring it up last month, because it should have been on our agenda in June. They use 2 classrooms at Eastgate School to serve 3- and 4-year-olds who qualify for the program. Generally, there's special needs involved in kids qualifying for Head Start, and usually a poverty consideration. It benefits us because these are kids that are eventually coming into our program. And so this is just a request to renew the lease for Head Start to serve students in 2 of the classrooms at Eastgate.
Do we need to add language that says this is retroactive, or are we just good to go?
Well, we're good to go because they don't start until August anyway.
Okay.
I think, are the dates July 1 through June 30, isn't that what it says?
Yep.
I assume because we've been doing this, it doesn't affect our class sizes for.
No, but that's why we went to 1 year, because of concerns about all the growth in the district, that we could all of a sudden see a boom where we have to tell them they have to find another spot.
Okay, so for the board, we have that agreement, that lease agreement. I would entertain a motion to accept that, or approve the lease agreement as stated. Motion from Tristan, and second from Tyrell. Questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion carries. And then we go on to consideration of pay adjustment for our IT staff.
All right, we have a very small IT staff serving 2,000 students in the district and in excess of 2,000 devices, probably 2,500.
Yeah,
I guess.
when you add up, like not necessarily all the devices are used, but when you add them all up, it's like 5,000, 6,000 devices.
So it's a significant burden for the folks that we have. We're really fortunate to have the caliber of staff that we do. After reviewing the situation, it's pretty clear that our wages are below the standard for what these individuals would earn if they went to work, for instance, at the state of Montana, school district number 1, private enterprise. So what I'm asking you to consider here is adjusting the pay for our IT staff and increasing it $2 an hour above the $1 an hour that we approved last month. And that won't get us to where we need to be competitive, but it'll be a step in the right direction, and then we can try and do something similar next year to try and get into a more market rate for these positions. The truth of the matter is we could barely operate without Oliver and Eric in terms of just how automated things are for everything from payroll to teachers given assignments in classrooms. So we're trying to make sure that we're being fair and treating our staff well and keeping them around. So.
Where does this come from the budget?
Say that again?
Where does it come from in the budget?
It's general fund.
And yeah, I assume you've identified this as a place where we are markedly under.
Yeah, we.
I mean, there's lots of places that are.
Yeah, we looked at similar positions in, well, first of all, Helena District, so that's a school, obviously. We looked at similar positions, state of Montana, and some private positions with other firms. I can't remember for sure what was on the list now.
I could pull it up.
And,
It was mostly state jobs.
yeah, we were probably $6 to $8 an hour below where we probably ought to be competitive. So over the course of the next few years, we're gonna try and get more into that ballpark.
So, yes, I would entertain a motion to approve the recommendation for the pay increase for the IT staff.
So moved.
Have a motion, and let's call it out as $2 per hour.
$2 an hour for 2025 through 2026.
Perfect.
Second.
And a second from Mark Deal. Questions or comments from the board?
The AT staff.
Oh, can it be retroactive to July 1st, which is when we started?
It was slow. Coming up.
Sorry, yeah.
Can we make that retroactive to
So-
July 1st?
I'll make a substitute motion to increase IT staff pay retroactive to July 1st, 2025, an additional $2 an hour for 2025, 2026. Is that nice and clean for you, Jill?
Yeah.
Clean enough?
Nice job.
It was a good motion, but
Was it good?
What started July first?
The pay, it's retro.
No, I know, but you started saying because July first was just because it's the beginning.
That's our fiscal year.
That's what I was.
So that's when we change contracts, that's when everybody changed, especially our
Oh,
summers.
like every other fiscal year.
So, Mark, you seconded, are you good with that?
Yep, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
additional questions or comments from the board? I'll just say that you guys have done a great job over the years, what you do. I appreciate your efforts. Questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Okay. Next one's mine. Item number 6 is an action item in order to make a compensation adjustment for our superintendent. Just some quick background on this. I have never worked this hard on any individual item for any individual within this district than I have on this one. This was messy. Reason being is that there is so much conflicting language and legal opinion associated with superintendents, Affordable Care Act, the IRS, and the amount of dollars or the kind of dollars that go into different types of accounts. And the sad part is that I've talked to several lawyers, and I am getting sometimes 2 and 3 opinions from the same attorney on these subjects. And it got to the point where I threatened to resign. I was not gonna do this anymore, this was not fun. But where we ended up settling on this, and the background behind it, is that there is some question on whether or not our current way of compensating our superintendent as far as health insurance goes, whether or not that is actually legal, because they are considered what is considered a highly compensated professional or highly compensated employee. And as a result of that, he can't be getting a health insurance policy that was greater than what other individuals within his capacity would be. Who's on in his capacity, the best we could come up with would be principals. And so as a result of that, in comparison, his health insurance plan was him and family. The administration are having themselves and either spouse or children. So what I decided, or what I thought would be the best way of doing that, is to bring Dan back into that, so then we're only paying him for superintendent plus spouse. That comes at a savings to the school district in approximately $9,000 that we'd be receiving on it, that, would essentially be a cut in Dan's pay. I didn't feel like that was fair, that we did that to him, that we penalized Dan solely because we have been doing something wrong. So in order to adjust that, I made the suggestion, and I don't know the exact amount, we probably should get that. Do you know what the exact amount is, Dan?
And the differential.
The differential.
I might try to bring most of my notes.
Yeah, let's try to get that so that everybody knows that it's just the differential between the amount that the premiums that the district pays for the superintendent plus family versus the superintendent plus spouse.
93.25.
93.25 divided by 12. $777. So then, as a compromise in it, I suggested that instead of the $400 a month that we are putting into Dan's annuity, that we would put in $400 plus $777 on a monthly basis into his annuity, and therefore that holds him whole at this point. Then I was looking at the compensation levels of other superintendents in similar size Class A school districts, what it would take in order to hire another individual in Dan's position, and it looked like based on that, a reasonable increase would be 3% raise. So that's how I came up with the math. I am not holding to this. If the board decides that they want to do something entirely different, I'm more than happy to allow them to do so. The thing is that we don't have a contract with our superintendent because it was, I mean, we do, we just don't have the compensation listed in there at this point because we've given him a 3-year contract. We did that clear back in January. But as far as the compensation is, and I would suggest that whatever we do, we make it retroactive to July 1st because that was delays in me being able to get the answers to it there. Again, I don't think we should be penalizing the superintendent because of issues with getting the information. So throw it out to conversation and I will try to take any questions I possibly can, otherwise I would entertain a motion.
I'm trying to write it down.
So this is already part of our, like, money that
We're screwing the family
we
and
would
passing
already
the
be
savings on to
paying
them.
to Dan.
Say that
Or
again, sorry.
where
Yeah,
does
it's
money
part-
come to pay the superintendent? I have no clue.
General fund.
What?
Yeah.
Comes out of general fund.
General fund.
And we, there's a formula based on the administrative staff that Dan doesn't necessarily apply to, however, that 3% is kind of close into line with what that amount is. So essentially what we're doing is not paying, we're not excessively overpaying Dan as far as his compensation increase goes.
I think for all you do, it sounds extremely reasonable.
I have a motion written down.
Let's hear it.
If you want a motion, you can go ahead and spout it.
Okay, I make a motion to increase the superintendent compensation by 3%, increase the annuity from $400 a month to $1,177 a month, adjust the health insurance package from super and family to super and spouse/children, or children. I can send child.
He's sending it to you.
He sent it?
I can show you afterwards, I've got it
Okay.
written down right here.
Alright.
Does everybody understand that? So my math, 400 plus 777 was 1177.
That's correct.
Just making sure.
And we're making it retroactive to July.
And make it retroactive to July 1st. Retroactive to July
So the,
1st,
Oh.
25. Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board?
I was just making sure I understood. The annuity part deals with the change in health insurance. The 3% was to try and keep our heads above water in terms of the competitive atmosphere.
Yeah. And part of it too, part of the issue.
I'm serious,
Yeah, part of the deal was that I did not want to see a gross increase in his compensation because then all of a sudden the East Helena School District becomes a statewide pariah. We've seen that before, where you end up with, how come East Helena is paying their school, their superintendent, $200,000 a year? Lockwood wants the same thing, and so then Lockwood says, why the hell are you guys doing that? And it becomes.
And that's why you're saying you allocated to the annuity in that
Yeah,
manner.
and that was just a difference, just to make him whole, and Dan was gracious enough to accept that. Dan, I mean, to be honest with you, I believe that Dan could have asked and legitimately had a basis for an even greater increase than what what we're providing on it. But this was a good compromise, I thought, and so then he was gracious enough to accept it, so.
Yeah, you're certainly not gonna feel richer than
Right.
3%. I don't think it ain't that kind of party.
Jump to the next tax bracket.
So, based on that, if there's no other further comments, I will call the question, or, oh yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry. Any additional questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? Go ahead.
I think Dan does an amazing job, and I don't want to short anybody money, and I just wanna say that, you know, staff and admin, or teachers and admin, took a 2% raise. And so I think it's just hard to swallow when we don't all just get the same amount as a raise.
It's just out of curiosity, if I may be so bold to ask, do you consider that equal when they've also got the steps and lanes associated with your guys' negotiated contract versus because the superintendent does not have that same flexibility or that allowable increase?
Well, the steps, you only get to a certain point. So there are certain years you no longer get steps. And then lanes, it costs us money to move over a lane. So there is like a cost to getting more money. And what we did with the admin is they were just based on the highest paid teacher's salary plus extra. And I just think, well, if that's fair for admin, maybe it's fair for superintendent. Like if we all just agree to an amount that would be a fair amount for our salaries to increase. And that would affect Dan too, because the highest teacher salary would to be dependent on a teacher who's moved over all the way on the lanes or the steps.
I appreciate the comment. I would dispute it, but I do appreciate the comment, so. Any other questions, comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
And I do believe that maybe next time, with my assistance, because I'm not gonna leave anybody hanging, but with my assistance, I might turn this over to the, one of the committees to do, because I struggled with this. This is no lie, I struggled for about 3 months on this, and it was to the point where I had had enough. I mean, we were getting threats that if we did something incorrectly, we may have to pay back taxes for up to 10 years on some of this stuff. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Every
Well, thank
time-
you very much.
Every time you picked up a
Sorry to
rock,
put you
there
in
was
this.
something else. Well, every time you picked up a rock, there was somebody else telling you that we were doing something wrong. And no solution on how to fix it. Yeah. Moving on to final item is MCEL plan for October of 2025.
And the dates are in the packet, October 15th through the 17th. MCEL is gonna be here. So typically this is our big annual conference that School Boards Association, along with school administrators in Montana, the Association of School Business Officials get together and put on an educational leadership conference for trustees, administrators, business managers, IT folks, to come just get together and learn. This is the first time it's been in Helena in probably 20 years. And, yeah, so it's nice for us, we won't have to travel. If you, and for folks who may only be able to attend even one day or one afternoon, what we're gonna be asking you for in August, if you're ready to let us know to register you, then we'll get you registered. And so Jen will need that information at the next board meeting. And I think even though it's in town, we should try and do a dinner out on
Sure.
Thursday night like we usually do. During the conference, if we can get that organized, it's kind of fun, to get everybody together. And, cause that's kind of been our tradition, is we have a big, at least one big night out with the board and spouses and everybody, so hopefully we can pull that together. And I don't know any other details about the conference, really. In fact, we were debating, Jill and I, where it was gonna be held. I think it's at the Delta, the old Colonial, is that where they're doing it, or do you know?
Boy, I don't
I'll
know.
tell you, last time they had a bunch of stuff at the
All over
civic,
town,
at the
yeah.
civic center, then they had,
Capitol,
yep,
and then
Yeah.
there's some at one of the hotels and some, but I think I thought Rob or somebody told me that it was gonna be at one central location, so I'm not quite sure how they're gonna pull all that
It
together.
kinda surprises me if they did do it at the Delta, but it could very well be.
Isn't the Great Northern?
Great
the one that
Northern
has all
Hotel.
the-
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep,
So, and then you're probably right, the MTSBA is gonna use
Maybe
their
they'll
headquarters
blend
and the
theirs,
hotel,
yeah.
cause they're right across
Best
the street.
Western Great Northern Hotel and the MTSBA headquarters in Helena's beautiful, so that's what shows on there. And I know that several of you, many of you have, or take that time because it's, your kids are out of school. You've got the youth hunt, I know that Harold has really been good about doing that, I respect that. But if at all possible, I would really encourage you to go to this. This is valuable training. Dan and I talked about it earlier, and especially with newer board members, I respect the fact that you guys are taking a lot of time out volunteering for this position. But I can tell you for a fact that aside from Mark Deal being here for another 25 or 30 years, you know, a lot of us are gonna be gone, and a lot of that institutional knowledge that we were able to capture at MCEL is gonna be lost. And so I just would encourage you to try to access that as much as you possibly can.
You can just say it's got, you've seen some deficiencies at this end of the table in terms
I
of
didn't say
training
anything.
and decorum. And
Didn't say anything. Decorum? Yes. But not to,
oh.
it's all right.
So when it says
That's all
October 15th, that's a Wednesday, does it start like Wednesday morning or does it start Wednesday evening?
I love
Usually,
I thought it was
Thursday
Thursday.
morning,
yeah,
well,
the main days are Thursday
Yeah,
and
Friday
Friday till
till
noon.
about-
Wednesday is usually more pre-session and.
yeah, superintendents, probably Masbo, does a lot of business, officials do a lot of their stuff.
So that might not.
Yeah, Thursday all day, usually probably half day, or maybe 3/4 of the day on Friday. Usually it doesn't go to the complete end, but I'm not sure exactly what they're, but if you're interested, we'll be asking for, interest and then getting more registrations and we'll go through that. But you have to get hotel reservations and stuff like that. Yay.
everybody can stay in my place.
Got a barnyard there, Mark, you got a little spot for us.
I'm coming
Day
out.
off. Okay, that will adjourn this meeting of the East Alabama Public School Board of Trustees. Our next official meeting is August 11th, at 5:30 right here at the EVMS school, and I will call this meeting adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.